Distinguished great guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and to our participants join us from other parts of the globe. Good evening and good mornings. My name is Dr. Chulalongkorn. On behalf of Chulalongkorn University and Chulalongkorn School of Integrated Innovation, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome all of you to the international webinar, Innovation for Society, Leading Our Future Through Sustainable Development. This webinar today has been designed as an integral learning process of the Social Innovation Competition Program launched by Chulalongkorn University and Chulalongkorn School of Integrated Innovation, aiming for university students from around the globe to work together in the spirit of teamwork towards sustainable development goals. We are excited to have received a large number of applicants to this competition program from across the globe, which shows enthusiasm of students in working for SDGs, utilizing their creativities. At the end of the webinar today, 10 finalists will be announced, and those select finalists will be matched with mentors. I would like to note that this meaningful program could not have been realized without collaboration with our partners. On behalf of my colleagues, I wish to express my sincere appreciation to our partners, SDGx, Yunus Foundations, and United Nations Development Programs. Before we proceed to the programs, let me give a few housekeeping announcements regarding technical issues as well as general matters on the webinar today. We'll take questions during the whole session in the live chat, so please don't be shy to ask more questions. I will collect all of them and chat to the speaker after each session. All the link for this webinar will be stay the same, so please stay tuned in the same link until the end of the webinar, and also until we announce the 10 finalists and the mentors. Now, may I first invite Professor Bandit Apon, the President of Chulalongkorn University, to give a welcome address. President Bandit, please.
Good afternoon, everyone, from Bangkok, Thailand. It is my great honor to welcome you to our event, Engaging Our Future Innovation Challenge for Sustainable Society. As Chulalongkorn University President, I am very pleased to see hundreds of students from almost 30 countries around the world joining this competition, hoping to find innovative ways to solve our global issues. Chulalongkorn University is the first and the oldest university in Thailand. We have about 38,000 students and almost 3,000 faculty members with outstanding national and international awards. We are committed to contribute to the society in these three main areas. Firstly, future leaders. We want to build the new generations that not only succeed internationally, but also care about social issues and want to make a difference. Secondly, impactful research and innovation. We want to conduct research and create innovation that align with the needs of the society. We want to be the one who provide the solutions to the world's major problems. Thirdly, sustainability. We work hard to support Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. We also collaborate with our networks in this regard. For this event today, I would like to thank our partners, Yunus Foundation, United Nations Development Programs, or UNDP, and SDGx for their generous contribution. Chulalongkorn University is proud to be a part of this event. We will continue to support this type of activities as it confirms our mission to create innovations for society. Thank you very much.
Next, may I invite Mr. Reynolds Mayer, Resident Representative to UNDP Thailand. Mr. Mayer, please.
Hello everyone, my name is Renaud Meyer and I'm the UNDP representative here in Thailand. So welcome to all of you for this innovation challenge that we have the pleasure of providing support to and contributing with Chulalongkorn University. You are a group of young people here from across Thailand, mostly students I understand, and we count on your creativity, your innovation, your sometimes wild ideas, all geared to improving our society. I think with the COVID-19 situation that we are going through, this situation offers a lot of opportunities to rethink how we have been living together in our societies, how we have been using the resources made available by our ecosystems, how we are coexisting with nature, but also maybe how our work is organized. With the lockdowns, we have learned how doing things differently, and sometimes it was for the better, with a lesser footprint, with less carbon emissions, with more space for wildlife, etc., etc. So I think this innovation challenge comes at a very interesting time where you are all provided an opportunity to help us rethink, to help us engage with our society. You will learn today more about the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 objectives that countries like Thailand have committed to achieve by 2030. And when I say countries are committed, I should actually say you are going to be the one who are going to achieve those goals through your action. And this innovation challenge is all about that. We will see you again in a few weeks' time after some mentoring and to listen to the pitches that you will come up with. I'm very excited to hear about what you will do. I'm sorry I cannot be with you today, but I look forward to engaging with you over the next few weeks in this exciting adventure. Thank you all and have a great day today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We much appreciate the invaluable partnership of UNDP Thailand to enrich this program. Next speaker is Professor Mohammad Yunus, who need no introduction at all. It is my honor to invite Professor Mohammad Yunus, Chairman of Yunus Center, 2006 Nobel Peace Prize laureate, to speak a few words to our audience.
Hello everybody, welcome to this webinar. This is the webinar on engaging our future. And you'll be asking yourself, what is our future? Are we in the right path towards the future? That's the key question. And it's a very important place to discuss this, the universities. Universities are always the place where all the accumulated knowledge of the past is presented to the new generation so that you get connected with all the accumulated knowledge. You become the beneficiary of it. But receiving that accumulated knowledge is not the major part of the university. University's major role is to challenge them, build new. Unless you challenge them, you cannot build new. So you don't have to take everything that has been done in the past. We have been doing lots of wrong things. We just can't let it continue forever and ever. So this is a time, particularly with the pandemic in our background, and everything seemed to have collapsed. When everything collapses, that also creates an opportunity for creation. If nothing was changing, you don't feel you have a scope for change further. So now, everything has to be changed. At least that's one view, and that's my view. I'm sure you'll feel the same way once you look around what's needed to be done. During the pandemic, a question came, I'm sure you're familiar with it, whether we should work hard to get back to where we are coming from before the pandemic. And I'm strongly resisting that. I'm saying, no, we don't want to go back. The world that we come from 6 months back where we were was not a very happy world. It's a terrible world. The world we kind of trying to get out of, but we couldn't. The world that was creating global warming in a massive way. And a countdown has begun for the extinction of the human race on this planet. We didn't have much time left. And on top of it, we have the problem of wealth concentration, very ugly, terrible wealth concentration, all the wealth getting in the hands of the few people. That's not the kind of world we want. And the world that we are coming from was also a world which is threatened by massive unemployment because of artificial intelligence. That's not the kind of world we want. So we know what kind of world we want because we know what we don't want. So if you can change it, reverse it, then we get the world that we want. We want a world where there will be no global warming. It's obvious because global warming is not something that we can live with because we'll be extinct. It's not consistent with our life. So we must stop that global warming. We must stop the wealth concentration. We must stop the artificial intelligence and massive unemployment. And that's the kind of world we want. I express it by saying it's a world of zero net carbon emission, zero wealth concentration, and zero unemployment. And we can build it. We know how it happened. All these bad things happen. Since we know how how all these bad things happen, we can undo it. We can change it. We stop it. That's the challenge that you have to have. Youth is our future because you're not contaminated by the old thinking yet. So it's only the new thinking which will take us to new frontier, new life. So you have the responsibility to make it happen. Always remember, old roads will always take you to the old destination. If you want to go to a new destination, like building a new world, you have to build new roads. So we all have to build new roads, and you will be the pioneer in doing that. And we'll be looking forward to it. So this webinar is about building new roads, how to get rid of the old thinking, how to bring the new thinking. What is the new thinking? How it will take us to the new destination. I hope you'll enjoy it. It's fun to think about it, and it's a very, very serious responsibility too. Good luck and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Yunus, for your kind welcome remarks. Your enduring work has inspired so many people, and your presence here today is providing further encouragement to our students to work for the betterment of society. Next, before we start with the session one, I would like to give you our agenda for today's webinar. We will have a total of 5 separate knowledge sessions, 30 minutes each, and then we will have an hour panel discussion on the future of SDGs. The first session will be Sustainable Development Insight from the local level, following by lesson learned from social enterprises and readiness to be invested in, perspective from an investor. And then by around 2:50 p.m., there will be a session of policy incentives for social enterprises, following by sustainable development at corporate executive level. Before having a 10-minute breaks, and then a panel discussions at 4 p.m. And then the finalist announcements and mentor pairing will be announced on 4:45 p.m. after the panel discussions. Hope you guys stay tuned. Next, if you okay, without further ado, we would like to proceed to the session one, joined by several speakers. Our speaker represent various backgrounds, but all of them with rich experiences, with strong commitment in innovations for society. The first session will be on sustainable development insight from local level. Today with me, we have Julie Lewis, Osirot, Sustainable Development Specialist at UNDP, and also Ms. Nishakan Dalamatat, project manager. Sorry, Youth and Community Engagement, UNDP Thailand. Please welcome both of them together with me together.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And so my colleague Nishakan and I will be discussing SDGs on a local level in Thailand and youth initiatives. I will share with you my screen. And it is difficult to join after such inspiring and great speakers. And I think some of the keywords that really got to me were we need to be innovative, which this competition is all about, and we need to learn from the past to create our future path. I think those are our key messages. And I will speak to you about the importance of localizing the SDGs and to integrate the SDGs. The SDGs belong to us all, as my colleague Vano was saying. They belong to all of us. This is not a UN thing. This is you and I are responsible for implementing them. This is our future and the future over the future generations. So I hope that you will be able to see my presentation once I share this. Let's see. Are you able to see something now? No. Okay. Are you able to see my presentation now?
Yes, I think it's coming.
Okay, great. So as I mentioned, we will be discussing the SDG localization in Thailand and youth initiatives. I would like to discuss a little bit about the SDGs in general, and then I will give you a snapshot of the situation in Thailand. And as you know, COVID has had a huge impact of the whole planet. And I mean, me sitting here on a screen is even an example of that we all see this on a daily level as well. And then I will discuss a little bit about UNDP Thailand's response to the impact created by COVID. And then I will go into how we can best localize the SDGs and the importance of partnerships and innovation in this, which is where you youth come in. And then I will give, lastly, a few examples of how UNDP Thailand ensures integration and localization of the SDGs before I give the word to Kun Kade. So first of all, we have 10 years left to reach the SDGs. That's not a lot. The gaps are still big and we still have a lot of work to do, which is why we need to work together. In Thailand, you can see that this graph is made in 2019, even prior to COVID-19. So you can see that only one SDG is nearly accomplished in 2019, and that is SDG 9 on industry, innovation, and infrastructure. And as you can also see, 3 SDGs have been regressing since 2020, which is goal number 10 on reduced inequalities, number 13 on climate action, and number 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions. And if you consider that this was before COVID-19, COVID-19 will have further impact on that. The Bank of Thailand expects the 2020 GDP in Thailand to contract by 8.1%. That's a lot. The unemployment rate is getting higher as we speak, and it is particularly hits the informal sector. COVID, and as any other crisis, disproportionately affects vulnerable people and populations, including people with disabilities, ethnic minorities, LGBTI, people working in the informal sector, as I just mentioned, migrants, refugees, youth, women, and stateless. This means that SDGs and our achievement towards the goal is more important now than it ever has been. We need to ensure that we do not regress, but that we progress and safeguard the progress that we've already made towards the SDGs. In order to do so, Thailand has implemented several initiatives and projects to support the Thai royal government in mitigating these impacts, and to also support and mitigate the impact on at-risk and vulnerable populations. Some of these initiatives include supporting LGBTI sex workers in 4 provinces, supporting local hairdressers and barbers, which is an initiative together with the government. We support survivors of gender-based violence, which is an issue that has been increased during this pandemic as well. We promote sustainable tourism in the long run, but also we need to change the setting in the pandemic. We have conducted various surveys to identify and addressing needs. This is a very important section of localizing the SDGs, which I will get back to you on in a moment. UNDP, together with UNICEF, is leading the socioeconomic impact assessment to identify these needs. We have also provided grants to various NGOs working on supporting ethnic minorities throughout Thailand. I will discuss a little bit about localizing the SDGs in a moment. However, the next phase of UNDP's COVID response is designed to help decision makers look beyond recovery, right? So as we heard earlier, this is not about going down the same path as we've done before. It's about building back better, creating that new sustainable road. And how do we do this? Well, UNDP is based on 4 new areas. 4 main areas: governance, social protection, green economy, and digital disruption. I will now discuss a little bit about how we can do this. This is about localizing the SDGs, getting back to the local level, and not just creating fancy wording and innovation challenges, but how we can actually identify the needs at local, provincial, and national and global level. The SDG localization has been described as the process of defining, implementing, and monitoring strategies at the local level for achieving global, national, and subnational sustainable development goals. What does this mean? It means in order to address the challenges all throughout a country and across borders and globally, we need to understand the local, regional, national, and even global context. In order to do so, we need to go to local levels to identify and addressing needs and gaps. So what is the reality? What is the local, socio-economic, environmental reality in that locality? What is being done and what needs to be done? And in order to do so, we need to create and forge strong partnerships, because alone we cannot achieve the SDGs. We're all responsible for this, you and I and everyone around us. I will get back to the importance of partnerships. However, in order to create and ensure ownership at a local level, we need to include local populations, local stakeholders, and local technical expertise in order to promote an inclusion and integrated approach the whole way from beginning to end. And that way we can ensure ownership at local and regional and national level. So this doesn't belong to us. We can create capacity and we can assist with technical expertise. However, this is something that we're all responsible for promoting the SDGs. So if we create that tool and framework at local, regional, and national level, we can then create the capacity for communities to then build their own resilience and also address the issues. This can be done, as this is the reason why we're here today, through innovation. I will get back to that in a moment. First, I'd like to go back to partnerships. As you can see, UNDP is working with several partners, including universities, including media, civil society, other UN agencies, technical experts, private sector, the Royal Thai government, and so on. These are just a few examples, and I'm sure that when you read this, you get several other ideas up in your head. And I'm sure that through your studies and through your work, you have been working with others as well. So this is crucial in promoting the SDGs together, right? And then I'd like to talk about innovation. So here you see a lot of words as remote sensing, innovation labs, behavioral insights, robotics, positive deviance, remote sensing, crowdsourcing. I'm sure you've heard maybe some or all of these words before. These are some ways that UNDP is working to promote innovation. And this is exactly why we're here. I mean, you're the experts on this. You're the future. We're now creating this new sustainable road based on innovation. However, I do think that creating this new road, this new sustainable road, is about looking forward, but it isn't necessarily about looking at fancy big words as artificial intelligence, digital solutions. That's part of it, but we need to learn from the past. We need to learn from what worked, what didn't work, what do we know that we don't want, and how do we promote this in the future. And also, local indigenous knowledge is key to achieving the SDGs in the field, because some things have been responded to in the local areas for decades, and they have worked. So how can we bring those elements further on to create this path and include that innovative approach? And we also need to think about integration of the SDGs. If we think about one area, we cannot exclude the other areas. We need to think about socioeconomic and environmental approach and gender responsive approach. I mean, if we need to live in harmony with nature, this is fundamental in order to create a sustainable world. We can't just keep going and using the resources without thinking about those things. So innovation is creating sustainable development within the borders and limits of our planet. So we need to learn from the past to create our future. I will now discuss a few ways that the SDG localization is being implemented by UNDP Thailand. For instance, one of the projects is the development of sustainable urban management systems. This is a project that aims to help cities move away from old school climate change mitigation projects using technology as solutions to also looking at what is actually needed in the field, what is needed in different cities, what is the different local reality. That means that they're now promoting participatory and integrated approaches, as I mentioned, to tackle climate change locally. This means that we need to consider what are the challenges, for instance, in northern Thailand. What are the challenges that they're facing in the mountains? What are challenges with forest fires, air pollution, and so on, compared to the south, where we focus on livelihoods that are fisheries, mangroves, and so on. So the realities are very different. That means that we need to have an inclusive, integrated approach. This is being done through stakeholder engagement, capacity building, and technical assistance, and then creating ownership at local level, as I mentioned before as well. And this particular project is currently being implemented in 4 different regions. The next project is about sustainable mangrove management and coastal ecosystem development. This is made through social enterprise development, the development of digital data platform, an eco-friendly construction facility for community forest, and the biodiversity finance plan at both the provincial level and in the main development plan. This is done in the Phetchaburi province, and it's done by UNDP in partnership with Blue Carbon Society and the Department of Marine and Coastal Resources, as well as Phetchaburi province. So to recap this, we need to create our future based on the past knowledge through innovative and sustainable approaches. You have now seen a little bit about what the snapshot is on the SDG situation in Thailand, what impact COVID has had in Thailand, and what UNDP has done to mitigate those impacts of the pandemic. And then I have discussed what does localization of the SDGs mean and the importance of partnerships and innovation. And then I've given you a few examples of how UNDP ensures integration and localization of the SDGs. I will now give the word to my colleague, Kun Nichakan. And if you do have any questions, please post them and we will do our best to respond to them, either live chat or get back to you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, Julie, for the presentation. So as Julie mentioned that it's very important to achieve SDG through the partnership. So of course, you should be one of the stakeholders that should engage in the SDG implementation as well. But actually not only as an spectator, but youth should be also the initiator as well. Because the achievement of SDG in 2030 is you will be the beneficiary, right? But then we don't want them to only be like the beneficiary, but they should be the one who decide the future they want to live in as well. So that's why youth is one of the important stakeholder that we would like to engage in SDG localization or any SDG initiative. Yeah, and then in order to engage them, so from UNDP perspective, we not only engage them as the contributor, but we also try to kind of like provide a platform to empower them to, yeah, like for example, through the innovation challenge, for them to be able to have innovative and entrepreneurship skill, to be able to create something for their community. Yeah, can you go to the next slide? Thank you. Yeah, so today I would like to give some of example that coming from local youth in Thailand. What are kind of like SDG initiative that they are doing for their local community. And then when we saying SDG initiative, it's not coming because they think, okay, which SDG I wanna focus and address. But the starting point is we're not looking at the different SDGs separately, but we should look at it like integrately. Like for example, first example that I would like to show is one of the group from the deep south of Thailand. So the project is called Local Chef to Peace Project. So the idea of the project itself is not just starting from pick up SDG 16 on peace, but it's more like they look into what is happened in their local community. So if looking into the local community in Pattani, like the livelihood is quite limited, like the works that people do there is quite limited. And then of course, as we know, there are several like conflict issue in the local area, and then what they see in the community is the conflict is happen anyway. Like we cannot just stop the conflict just right away. But what happened during the conflict is people from different like background, like from Muslim people or like Chinese people or like Buddhist people, they don't talk to each other. It's not because they hate each other, but it's because they don't have a space to gather together. So they're thinking about food as one of the things to bring people together, because right now at first, like for example, Muslim people, they only go to Muslim restaurant is because they know that the process of cooking for um is good for themselves, like it's not like against the Muslim. Yeah, but the thing is like it's not that they don't want to go to Chinese restaurant, but they are not sure about the ingredients there or how about the process to cook it. Yeah, so this project is like they try to create the menu that is integrate different background of like different ingredient that come from different cultures, but then they still do it in the process that everyone can eat it together. And when they bring it together and become the chef table, so the people who come to the chef table are come from different background and different communities. And yes, Chinese can also come as well, Muslim people can also come as well, Buddhist people can also come as well, and they eat it together and start to have a conversation together. So in this kind of way, we can see in the impact of the project that why we say is SDG, like driving SDG, because it's not only like focus on one SDG. Like yes, it's focused in one SDG, but it still have impact on several things as well. And the way they are working is not just they are working alone or working toward only one SDG, but they are working toward like kind of like as a partner. Yeah, partner with different group, different area, and also finally they make the impact to several SDG. Yeah. So for the next one. Okay, so next one, I would like to give the example, go to the north of Thailand. So this group, they are the stateless youth. Yeah, so as the stateless, they're facing a lot of issues. For example, the right in education, right? They can study like some area they can study, but they cannot do it as a work. Yeah, for example, like teacher or engineer. Yeah, so what they're trying to do is the youth in this group, they are stateless youth, so they know what are the challenge that they are facing and their community are facing, so they know the pinpoint of it. Yeah, and then what they're trying to do, their intervention is they're trying to create the media platform to tell the story about the stateless people in the process of doing the documenting process to get the citizenship. Yeah, so their media platform is try to telling those story to public awareness and also telling the kind of like what document we prepare, what are the process to other stateless people as well. So we can see that this intervention is can be helpful not only to one group, but it's also make people to come together and is reduce is create inclusiveness as well. So this is one that is very aligned with the core of SDG, which is leaving no one behind. Okay, and the last one. Okay. Yes, and last one. So come back to Bangkok as well. Bangkok. So from the south to the north and Bangkok, we can see that youth in different region they can see they can everyone can make the intervention, and the good intervention will start when you really see what is the existing issue in their local area. Yeah. So you don't need to like. SDG is will be the framework to help you kind of like categorize what are the local issue that exist. So, for example, this group, they are the group of youth that study in Bangkok. But then one of the group, they are doing the thesis on weaving, and then they are going to the Mae Hong Son area to see the way of living there, to see like how they do weaving and things. So what they found out as the issue is when they go to the north, yeah, and then living with the the ethnic group, they found out that okay, like people there are very good at weaving, but then the youth there they are not really into the education system because they feel that the education is kind of like separate from their life. Like if they study mathematics, they don't know how to apply it in their life over there. Yeah, and then when they come back to Bangkok at the same time, it's also they also observe what happened in Bangkok. So it's another opposite way. Like people here, they are really kind of like the academic focus, but at the same time, the life skill were not very like integrate with the education that they're studying. So the idea, the intervention that they are doing is they try to create active learning through weaving technique. So the first prototype that they do is they create a learning session on mathematics with weaving technique. So for example, um, if there is the kind of like percentage, yeah, percentage class, and then in order to like after calculate into percentage, they visualize the percentage into the weaving pattern. So in this way, like in this class, for the kind of like the north, the people in the north, like ethnic people, they can also relate it with their lifestyle as well. So it's help them to kind of like not really separate academic with their life, but integrate it together. At the same time, when they provide this course to the people in the city, it's also help them kind of like learn life skill along with the academic issue as well. Yeah, so in this way, it's one intervention, but it can really fit the user both from Bangkok and the north. Yeah, and as at the same time, it's kind of like create a connection for for both group of people to learn about each other, and it can create inclusiveness as well. Yeah. Okay, so these are three examples that I'm giving, and then we can see that two main things that I would like to kind of like highlight on. So first one is in order to create like innovation for SDG in the local level, it's important to understand what are SDG framework. Like they are 17 goals, but at the same time, the important thing to be aware of is you really need to know the insight in your local level, like what are the issues that existing in your level and how it fit like different SDG goals. Yeah, and then second one, in order to come up with the ideas like create the intervention, the kind of like the heart of the intervention is how can we bring inclusiveness in our intervention as well to make it align with SDG goals, because by the end of those SDGs like 17 goals, we want to leave no one behind. So your intervention that you are creating, it should bring people together, like create engagement, make partnership, and by the end bring people to understand each other and support each other more. Yeah, so that's two main things that I would like to give to you, as you will be the social innovator and create some idea in this innovation challenge. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think me and Julie, we are welcome for any question if anyone has.
Sure. Thank you very much, Julie and Kun Nishakan. What a fruitful and informative session we have. I've got 1,225 questions to ask you. No, I'm just kidding. I just got a few questions, but very, very interesting question to ask. The first one, we heard a lot of the word ecosystem in the sessions. And as we know, ecosystem need to engage stakeholder. How can, can you give me an example or probably like initiative that you can effectively engage a potential stakeholder into your initiatives or programs, because it's quite obvious that like it happens all the times that we engage a wrong stakeholder or we cannot like draw them into our ecosystem, right? So can you give me an answer on that?
Yeah.
Julie.
Okay. Well, I'll give a short answer and then I'll give the word to Kun Kade as well. Well, first of all, I think creating and forge partnerships and working with existing partnership is crucial, right? And I think in order to do so, we need to be transparent. We need to be clear about what the goals are. What are the needs at local level? And in order to identify these needs, we need to work with local stakeholders, local beneficiaries, and also existing partners at the local level, but also provincial and national and international level, because the SDGs belong to everyone. This is something that we all need to do together to promote these goals through innovation, through sustainable and integrative approach. And in order to do so, we need to create a network of partners, right? Because no one can know absolutely everything. I can't go into the field and say, I know exactly what you need. No, we need to understand what is needed. And we need people to tell us that, right? We need people to tell us what they need. We need to identify needs and gaps in local areas, in the provinces, and at national and international level. And none of us can do this alone. So creating the partnerships is definitely crucial to obtaining this. And we need to look at all the SDGs together in order to leave no one behind. This isn't just promoting one thing. It is, climate change is related to the pandemic, right? The environment, respecting the biodiversity, they're all connected. If we don't respect biodiversity, if we don't respect the planet, we will pay for that. We are paying for this. We see climate change issues relating to food shortage, difference of rising in higher temperature, leading to other challenges in agriculture, leading to migration, so it's all connected. So in order to look at all this integration and take this down to local level, we need to then discuss with technical experts at local level. We need to reach out to everyone we can, right? And this sometimes is challenges because identifying these partners is crucial. So then through our partners, we also need to understand who are the beneficiaries, who are then other partners that can potentially be on board with this. So that is definitely a part of our important work. It's about awareness, it's about advocacy, and it's about working on all levels.
All right, hard work indeed. Move to Kun Kadet, right? You mentioned that when you're doing something, you initiate some project or program in UNDPs, right? You're not looking at SDG like goals in the beginning. I think a lot of groups like who are applying to this competition, they look at the goals, 17 goals first, and then they're trying to find something that fit to the goals. Can you explain like briefly how can things can be reverse mechanism like that?
Okay, so first I would like to say there is nothing wrong at looking at the goal first, but then what I would like to kind of emphasize is if you are looking at the goal and you stick into only one goal, it will only like, because SDG, the goal of SDG itself, we want to achieve every goal,
Mm.
right? So for sure, when you're doing like social innovation idea, it might not only fit one goal. So if you start with one goal, is okay, but you still need to have like broader your perspective as well, that what else can be related, like this thing will impact this goal. For example, this might impact education, like for example, when I give the example of Parlearn on the mathematics on living, it might impact like education at first, because they wanna kind of like solve the issue of education for ethnic people and for people in the Bangkok. But then at the same time, it's also impact to other goals. Yeah, so they have to so when they work more into the detail of the project, they also see that they are the element of the community, like SDG 11, that they should be thinking about as well. So by the end, like what I would like to emphasize is do not looking to achieve only one goals, but then in your project, really think about what are the issues like in your area. It might not be fitting in only one goals, but it might fit several goals. And how can we make our intervention kind of like be able to solve those all? Yeah. So that would be the message. Ka.
Okay, great. I hope you guys can learn a lot from this answer as well. Last question for this session for Julie. How do you measure the success of each initiative that UNDP launched? I mean, at either local levels or international levels. How do you measure the success? It's pretty tough to quantify, sustainable development impact, right? And how do you measure those success? Quick one.
Thank you for that very important question. And I think this is something we all need to keep in mind while developing projects and while thinking about innovative solutions. What indicators do we have to measure the progress? And how can we change the progress while we develop the project? So let's say we have objectives that are identified in a project, and then we identify indicators. So how do we measure how well we're doing in this project, right? So the SDGs have 169 indicators that can help us sort of align what we're doing. However, these are not necessarily always directly applicable to exactly all projects. So then each project needs to have their own monitoring and evaluation indicators. So let's say, okay, we have a project. We need to see how many people were participating in this capacity building workshop. How many people did we reach out to? How many beneficiaries received our direct assistance? But then you also have projects that are more broad, like sustainable tourism, protection of biodiversity. These are very difficult to measure unless you have, okay, you can look at the red list index. You can say how many birds, how many animals are now off that list of being in danger of being extinct. That's one measure, for instance. But then you also have bigger measurements, like, okay, we're going to contain the increasing of the temperature in the world. This is very difficult to measure month by month. This is something that we need to look at in kind of as a holistic view. How do we mitigate these impacts of the world? How do we do that in a smaller version? So we can look at smaller projects. We can say, okay, how many people did we reach out to? What direct impact did we have? But then you have indirect impact and longer term impact that it's more difficult to measure. So then we need to find a balance. So what UNDP does in particular projects is we have those indicators. We measure undergoing, and then we see at the end, did it have the wanted impact? Did we reach the objectives? And I think it's also very important when during this innovation challenge, it's identifying realistic goals, first of all. And then while these goals are being developed, and as the project is going underway, it's good to stop sometimes and say, do we need to adjust something? Are we going in the right direction? Do we now have new information that we didn't have before that needs to be integrated? Do we need to deviate? Do we need to change this? We now have more technical knowledge about a specific area. Do we now need to change? Did something else externally change for us to need to change our project? I think this is definitely a key message to be able to adjust the project underway, and then to monitor our own impact as we go. And then at the end to be able to say, what could we have done better? But then if we do a good job underway, we don't need to have that shock and that huge surprise at the end. So I think measuring impact is something we do during the process. And at the end, we can say, did we meet those needs? And how do we need to adjust? And what do we need to do forward? And I think it's very important to think about short-term goals, but how does this impact us in the long term? What are the long-term effects for what we're doing? So I think my main message is create realistic goals based on the information you have, and then adjust them as you're going. And then keep in mind that what you're doing now is going to impact the long-term development, right? So then you need to adjust as we go. Do you have new access to information, technology, partners? Then how do you integrate that and improve your project as we go? Thank you.
Wow. So 169 indicators. That sums up. That's great. Thank you so much, Julie and Kunishakan, for the fruitful sessions. And I think the participants learn a lot from your experiences, from your case studies, and your programs. Hopefully, we can meet each other in person soon in the near future, right?
That would be great. And I just want to say good luck to all participants. And I've seen their great initiatives. So good luck to everyone.
All right.
Yeah, good luck to everyone and looking forward to see your intervention.
Okay. Thank you so much, both of you. Bye. All right. So back at our programs to the next sessions, it will be a lesson learned from social enterprises. We have two guests for these sessions. The first one, please accept my apologies if I pronounce your name wrong. Ms. Sadiskia Ayal, the co-founder of Himalayan Innovation in Nepal. And also we have here together with me, it's Mr. Savinda Lanatunga, or we call each other Sabi, right? Yep. So from UNDP representative. So if you ready?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so you two can take it away. Microphone. Sawi, I think you need to open your.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Sorry. So hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you all across the world and region as well, joining to with this amazing webinar on this innovation challenge. And then we had great couple of lineups at the before with really good insights from Professor Yunus himself and then other colleagues as well. So building from what Julie and Kade mentioned in the previous session, I think the biggest learning factor is that whenever, this is a global challenge, you are trying to address some of the global challenges of SDGs through a local perspective. So having that clear understanding about some of the challenges that persist in your communities is very well important. But however, how you can bring that global learning and that frameworks and empowerment is also a key in this sort of interconnected journey. So learning from the social entrepreneurs, I think it's a very interesting topic for all of you because you guys are social innovators already coming up with these amazing ideas. Yes, we saw all these amazing pictures that came through and excited for the future journey as well. So my name is Savinda Ranatunga. I'm the Regional Youth Project Coordinator at United Nations Development Program, Coordinated Youth Collab Initiative. But today is not about me. We have amazing individuals, Ariksha joining with us all the way from Nepal to really share her story about her being an entrepreneur and creating that journey. And we also would like to have a discussion with her. And feel free to add your questions in the chat box of the YouTube stream as well. We hope to address some of the challenges. So with that one, I'll hand it to Sadisha as well. We would like to hear a little bit about yourself and of course about Himalayan innovations and the work that you do right now. So over to you, Sadisha.
Hello. Thank you, Savinda. Thank you for having me in this wonderful, wonderful program. I'm absolutely delighted to share on works of Himalayan Innovations, what we do here as social enterprise. I'm just starting with sharing some slides. Could you please let me know if my screen has been shared?
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, it's clear now. Yeah, you can see.
Yes. Himalayan Innovations is a social enterprise that works for providing affordable clean energy solutions to rural Nepal. And what we started from the beginning is from our project called Solar Forward, where me and my sibling Kuldeep worked with archetypes like Miss Lechen Serpa. As you can see in the screen, she used to be someone who has her husband working in a Gulf country, and she's looking after her small children and looking after the fields and all the responsibilities besides her husband working away, and she alone handles all the responsibilities of her in-laws as well. And we working with such archetypes, we kind of designed our solutions as Solar Forward, where we were able to fight some issues that was prevailing in our country at that time, and is of course is the same right now. Our country, Nepal, has lowest per capita in energy consumption of renewable energy services, and with most of the men going outside and earning for themselves, the expectations of the family out here in Nepal, they would want to get their family back in Nepal equipped with more quality services, and their spending capability was also increased as well. And yes, our target group were the local cooperatives whom we partnered, and the local cooperatives have the biggest reach in Nepal rather than digital banks. And we still, as of 2020, we have 31.09 million members in local cooperatives. And why we came up with this, we had to come up with this solution which had some touch of private sector, some involvement of from government body, and the local, of course. So the issues we had to face was there were critical fallacies in government framework which were targeted to marginalized communities, and most of the time the salesmen, they only had they only focused on getting they only focused on one-time sales. And yes, if someone has less money, they would go for cheaper solutions, and again the cycle would reverse back, like where our archetype like Lechen Serpa would again end up buying the cheapest solutions, and of course do not have the quality products. And through Solar Forward, we piloted the pay-as-you-go model solution, where the farmers were able to get our service through a device which has numpad in it, embedded from 0 to 1. And with the local cooperatives, the staffs would go and visit to their house and give them the code that would allow them to use electricity for 30 days. And we were focusing on how we can be different from all the business persons who were focusing on one-time sales till now. So we were more brainstorming on how we will be different, how we can get more trust of our beneficiaries. And what we came up with was starting to work with local girls and women as energy leaders of tomorrow, and get maximum use of our partnership with local cooperative. And what we felt was rather than promoting the use of renewable energy just for lighting, we need to focus more on renewable energy services as well. And this one is the picture where I was doing a research for Himalayan innovations, and this photo was taken by me when I was in the post earthquake areas, where the area was hardly hit by earthquake, and I saw a solar panel wherein a woman, she let her baby's trouser to dry. And being coming from an electronics and communication background, I could easily figure out that if any kind of objects are let to dry over solar panels, it badly affects its operation. And I came to realize that it is one thing for a renewable energy technology to be made available, and actually training and letting the woman of that family or any major member of that family to actually know on how to use it. That is why I came up with this concept of starting Girls for Rurals. And post COVID, we were one of the social enterprise which hardly got affected by COVID-19 as others. And as at that time, having a network of girls, 160 girls with us, and getting calls from business persons, mainly the farmers who work for poultry farming, mushroom making, and carpet making industries. We were calling back to back for getting our devices installed. We could not solve them as well. And what we did was we tried to push for local manufacturing because there was a huge shortage of protective equipment. So we partnered with local manufacturers and became a distributed partnership of a consortium called Protect Nepal consortium. The consortium used our girls of network of 160 girls to distribute the face shields to rural health posts in Nepal. And till now, we have been able to distribute more than 40,000 through the same face shields through the same consortium in Nepal. And yeah, I'm looking back, why was there a need to pivot? And we wanted to go digital because, of course, we must be following the rules and guidelines of the WHO. And there was this optimism of that utilizing our ground networks to the best of the post-COVID situation, where we could actually benefit the farmers, was that to smallholder farmers. And we wanted to channelize our existing networks, and post-COVID, one of the most difficult situation was that our beneficiaries from Himalayan innovation, our customers who have bought our renewable energy equipments from us, they were in very bad situation where they were not able to sell their products because the transportation and everything was halted, and everything was getting rotten away. And so our pivoting made us come up with this whole circle of connecting solar forward with goals for rurals and Gaon Bata. So we have already 2,500 plus customers from Solar Forward who have purchased renewable energy equipments, agricultural equipments from our device, using our device. And we have this network of 160 plus girls, and we wanted to give the platform and to the smallholder farmers again. So what we did was we came up with a logistical platform called Gaon Bata, where we work with 150 smallholder farmers to realize the fact that renewable energy is just not for lighting. and you can use it for increasing your production and lowering the cost of your produce and sell in the market as well and make the profit at the same time. And this was Gaubata, and we launched this recently, where we have subscription-based customers in the city, helping some women, smallholder farmers working back in the village. And we created we visualized the LinkedIn profile to help smallholder farmers, so that smallholder farmers to actually celebrate farming as a profession as well. And this was the COVID response of Himalayan Innovations, where we work with smaller farmers, and for the delivery we used Clean Tempo, which is a 3-vehicle run by batteries. And again, we were also contacted by the women driver groups, who were saying we do not have anything to earn, and that our rent bills and and they have a lot of bills to pay, and we tried to incorporate them into our Gaubata platform, and converted this whole three-wheeler vehicle into a carrier, and used it to deliver to the subscribers in the city. So we wanted to make sure that each move, our pivoting, would deliberately have a specific SDG metric focus on 7, as it was the core principle of starting Himalayan Innovations, and we were able to touch SDG 9 and SDG 10 with our projects. The core principle of Himalayan Innovations is human-centered design, where we design each of our service and the particular way of benefiting our customers through the community immersion first, and then learning about their habitual daily activities and their consultations as well. We have a team that have a diverse background, and we have a team where electronics engineers like myself, civil engineer, and have been working in the design thinking and humanitarian and development sector innovation as well.
Thank you so much, Sadiksha. So, no, I think thanks for your sharing as well. While we are waiting, also, I mean, please add your questions over there in chat group as well. But I think I was taking notes as well. You touched base on very important aspects because we are part of this innovation challenge. I think we have many all across the world. We heard that more than 30 countries. We have many submissions coming in with the innovative ideas. I think few years, or I think very recent, you have been in the same position, right? Come up with an idea as an individual, thinking about seeing that issue, and then coming up with that idea and coming to what you do right now with an amazing platform over there. So with that journey, given that we are addressing a similar cohort of young people like yourself all across the world, what are some of your thoughts for them in terms of how they can really persevere their ideas and really addressing a local solution? I'm pretty sure there have been some challenges and pivoting and new ideas, and you shared a lot about the COVID impact, how you address it as well, which is very great, and see how much impact you have created. So what are some of your thoughts that you would like to share with all the inspiring young entrepreneurs who are joining with us today?
It is very hard at first, because coming from a technical background, what I personally have faced was I found difficulty in convincing my parents. They were, you are an engineer. You and my sibling is also an engineer, and having studied engineer, you guys are going to sell potatoes, kind of thing. And despite Corona, will you be able to do that work? Yeah, and it is some kind of genuine concern that comes from each of the family, I believe. Yeah, because they would first think about our safety as safety than us going to help others. And yes, I would definitely want the young generations to come to ideate in such a way that you yourself become an integral part of the change as well, and make sure that your whole community benefits through what you are doing.
Definitely. I think, we have bit similar stories as well. I'm a civil engineer myself. When I started my entrepreneurial journeys back in Sri Lanka, they also say like, what is entrepreneur? Like a salesman somewhere, why you are wasting an engineering degree and coming all the way to be a local farmer in Sri Lanka and to now to be in United Nations, very similar journeys. But that's also connected to an important point, and especially what you represent in a developing market, in a girl in a STEM engineering background, and actually creating use of that knowledge, I think is very acknowledgeable as well, what you do. And also there's an interesting point of this sort of innovation platform is that also this is globally connected, led by Chulalongkorn, UNDP and other partners as well, SDGx and Yunus Center. How would you see in terms of the support that you can perceive from larger regional or global platforms? You were part of our Youth Collab journey. We are very proud to have you with us as well, because there are a lot of opportunities available. We are one of them, and then there are many as well. How would you see that as a young entrepreneur? What are the ways that you can maximize the use of these platforms as well? And how have you utilized this sort of platform in your journey so far?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for being a part of the Springboard program of UNDP Youth Collab, it was an incredible journey where I and myself and my brother were groomed into the raw business idea person into someone who can actually go into field and work. And we were also at times found much more directed, and we were able to get guidance from our mentors from Youth Collab as well, where we would find ourselves difficult. There's some point where we intend to do everything at one, and being a youth, you want to do everything at once. You find opportunity in everything. At the same time, the guidance and mentorship and our participation with Youth Collab have us directed towards particular objectives, so that we can actually be more choiceful, more increase our social impact, and as well as run our business through the ethical business doing ways. And I have what I want to say is that it's very important to make yourself aligned to the platforms that have some kind of weights, and that can provide correct guidance at first, because your input definitely decides your output, right? And if you are not with someone who can give correct input, some organization that can direct you on what you are doing, you are going to on how you are doing, how to develop a business model, to how to the journey of how to pitch and all. One should really think of what kind of organization that he or she might align to.
Yes, very much indeed over there. One interesting question on the model that you shared with us as well, really in terms of the value of the cooperative culture that is actually being mentioned in Nepal. I think, as you mentioned, more than 30 million members in that cooperative culture over there. Because the previous session, just before our discussion, was also about how to use the local ecosystem. There was a question about stakeholder engagement and the platforms as well, because one of the biggest challenges as an innovation idea to become an enterprise is how we can actually engage your stakeholders, customers, and move in that journey. So, and especially if you're coming from a developing market, I think many of us in Asia, but throughout the global as well, these cooperative structures are also something that we see as well. Do you think that is it a path that you suggest that many entrepreneurs to think about? Because traditionally we always think about, okay, create an idea and then go to social media, promote, and try to get some markers and some selling of the solutions over there. But you're particularly interested about that cooperative structure using that existing communities that are already curated there. So how how do you suggest? Because may or may not be there a winner or a champion over there, but really piloting the solution at the first stage and getting the next stages. And also you have created an entire ecosystem, I would say, of solutions, right? From solar panels to now with the youngers empowerment, with the entrepreneur environment. So how did you play around that, the existing cooperative structure in Nepal? And is there any suggestion that you want to share with the people moving from today, how to get that pilot to the successful production soon through using cooperative structure? Is there any solution from your side?
Yes, there are a lot of women who are into who are the members of these local cooperatives. And what in Nepal, sometimes we have faced this situation where people would just register the whole organization or business in the name of just using the name of the woman to get the benefit or provision provided by the government. And when we go to the field, there is no woman. There is we find her husband working in the confectionery businesses, and there's no woman. And what I going to the community and talking to the people, we realized that all of the information we gathered from the government, yes, they do have these sections of women who are categorized as marginalized and someone who have no low collaterals. But then there's only the specification and their names written in the pages, and nothing more done. And the provisions are not being able to reach to the woman. And there is critical fallacy in the subsidy effectiveness of subsidy in clean energy as well in my country, where so there are few people who regard subsidy as a general disease. But then there are few people who regard no subsidy should not be given, and there should be more pattern where if you are to promote renewable energy services, there must be not be subsidy. And we as Himalayan Innovation, what we wanted to cater was we wanted to work with local girls, because ultimately we will be working with the women leaders of tomorrow. That way we will be tapping up the concept of working for gender inclusive energy uses. And if using the girls in the local community has been fantastically proven good for us, because we have been getting information of marginalized communities who do not have even a phone and not registered in their local wards. This kind of issues rather conflicting, but more give us more inspiration to work to reach such kind of communities. And the local girls, they have been able to connect with such kind of communities. And the local girls for rurals help us to connect with the women who are the members of the local cooperative. And local cooperative, our partnership with local cooperative is to provide a credit history for the smallholder farmers, because they are someone with no or little collaterals, and each of the bank have these conditions of giving of asking of collaterals with a woman. And of course they wouldn't be able to submit it, right? So almost many percent of even the provision sounds too good to hear. It's not the reality at the ground. And this fact has been relayed by our Girls for Rurals network.
No, thank you so much. Now, definitely, I think in terms of the connection that nexus, I think you are addressing really key points, because we are trying to address leaving no one behind, reaching out to marginalized communities. We try to be, unique partnerships and stakeholders in that journey. So, thank you so much for joining with us today, Sadisha, and really sharing your inspiring journey, and also inspiring many future Sadishas, I'm pretty sure, who are hearing with us today as well. Hopefully through our organizers, we can get your contacts with them as well, so they can reach out to you and to get more connections and your stories as well in the future as well. So thank you so much once again, and really hope to all the best with all the efforts that you're creating, and then really look forward to connecting with you again as well, Sadisha. So with that, and yeah, thanks so much, and now to Ajahn Ronnie as well. Thank you, Sadisha, again.
Thank you for having me.
Ajahn Ronnie, over to you.
Hi. Okay. Thank you so much, Sabi and Sadisha. I mean, it's super excited to see a country like Nepal has a young entrepreneur with energies and good heart like you. So I hope you all the success in your renewable energy business in Nepal. And you too, Sabi. Let's go to Samui after the work, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Great. So now we finished the second sessions on sustainable development on social enterprise. Next, it will be a third session focused on the readiness to be invest in perspective from an investor. Today, I have a Forbes 30 under 30 entrepreneur, John Phao, who is the founding CEO of GetLinks and now Group Strategy Officer, Label Teller 2020 Top 300 Foreigner Personality in Thailand. Wow. John is one of the youngest technology founders in Southeast Asia that got funded by Alibaba, JobsDB, and SCG at the age of 26. Hope you guys can, together with me, welcome John Phao together. Oh, hi.
Hi everyone.
Hi, John, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Okay, that's great. How are you today?
Great. Really good, actually.
That's nice. Good to have you here with us today. And actually, I know a few people from GetLinks, but yeah, let's talk about that later. For the session, would you like to sort of briefly introduce yourself to the audience? Quick one.
Yeah, I think you already did.
Maybe more, in a little bit more details and more personalities into it,
Yeah, sure. So the question everyone asks me usually is, how did I end up in Thailand, right?
Yes.
So it's one, and where do I come from? There's the second one. So I'm actually French. Grew up in south of France in a small fishing village named Nice.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, it's near Monaco. Great. And after that, I've been working in Ernst & Young in Shanghai as an intern. That's how I got to discover Asia, and I realized that I was thinking that if there is something to be done in the next 10 years, maybe I would like to do it in Asia, because that's really fast growing. Then I got a chance to work for Lazada in Bangkok, and they pay me a flight ticket from Paris to Bangkok. So that's how I started. So I started here as an intern in the regional marketing team, taking care of Indonesia, Singapore, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, and then I started my own company, which is GetLinks.
Nice. Okay. In this session, we're going to do the interview type of sessions, right? So there will be no presentation, there will be no slides, and there will be only tough questions for you, John. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll start with the first, related questions to the topics. You have one of a very strong track record in fundraising, yeah, including the first Southeast Asia Series A startups invested by Alibaba from the founder below 30. How can you give any hints, how did that happen?
Right. So I think the audience today is mainly people who are trying to build a company as well, right? So we try to for them. I think it's a ride. I'm sure a lot of you guys are very excited about starting an entrepreneurship journey, but you're gonna know that it's very long, and you won't get out that quickly, right? So firstly, I think for us, we've got the chance to be ending being entrepreneur, but not really aiming for it. I'll tell you the story. We were actually simply just hanging out. Okay. So we started this as an event, actually. And this was an event that we were organizing in my place for the first time, gathering some tech people or people who were interested into technology and reading TechCrunch. Okay. and we gather them into my place for beers on a Friday night, and then it ended up to be next month on a bar in Tonglong, and then next month on a rooftop, and then the following month in a club with 800 people.
Wow.
And this is the time I made more money on that day than my whole salary in Lazada.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, there's something going on here, right? And then this is when we started to look at, what were those people, and realized that a lot of them were actually engineers and tech people, and they just wanted to hang out. So we came up with the idea of building an app to connect those people after the event, not only during the event. So I think, how did that happen, and how did we end up building a successful company? I'm not sure if it's successful yet, but until the IPO. But I think it's with patience, right? You want to build a business that you're intrinsically interested in, right? You want to build something that you think you can see yourself next 10 years doing, even free, right? And I think when you feel that, and you have enough drive to be waking up in the morning and solving problems, and once this happens, people feel it, and people want to help you, and people want to join you, right? So it's not that easy to raise, a lot of money from Alibaba and other investors, but it took us a while, right? And I think it's only possible if you're really sure that you're doing something that you like, and that's also solving a really big problem.
Right.
For us, we ended up realizing that the problem we were trying to tackle was not just hanging out with beers between tech people. The problem we're actually tackling was the problem of digital transformation of Southeast Asia, and it's actually called the talent gap, right? So the talent gap is very simple. There is 1.7 billion people on the workforce today globally, and there is only maybe 7% of them who are actually relevant for jobs who will emerge 10 years from now.
Sure.
Right? So the question is, what do you do with all these 990 something million people, right?
Sure.
And this is the talent gap. So some companies have decided to build up upskilling programs alongside with government, and I think Chulalongkorn University is doing that as well, which is great. And some companies are trying to support the people who have those skill sets for the digital economy to be able to actually penetrate those high-paying jobs. Because on average, those jobs of the digital economy are paid 7 times higher than the median salary, right? So what started with a hangout beer meetup was actually something much bigger than what I expected, and I was completely unprepared for this. So I'm not sure I'm the best candidate to explain you how to build a great entrepreneur journey, but I can definitely help you out on raising money.
I see, but I mean, passion is one thing, right? I mean, solving like huge or big problems is one thing too. But I mean, if you look at another side of the coin, right? I mean, even though you get passion, you got like good topics, you got good ideas, but how do you attract investor? I mean, you should have some trick, right?
Yeah. So you need to build something real, right? So first, as I mentioned, you need to have the passion. Number 2, you need to be working on a very big problem that is bigger than you, bigger than your family, bigger than your friends, bigger than your nation, right? If you work on a problem like this, usually you can be even very stupid. You're still gonna make something great, right? Because the market, the economy wants something in this area, right?
Right.
For us, it was digital talent hiring, right? 3, you need to make it real, right? So you need to be like a plumber and have this mindset of plumber, right? So every time you see, you need to tackle it as quickly as the next maybe hour or next day. And if you keep doing that enough, at some point you're gonna start to make money. because you're gonna start to have some kind of product that are fitting the market and some kind of customers that you really made happy. And then you're gonna start to have some traction, right? So that's the number one thing that investors look at, your traction. And you're the chief of deciding what traction means to you, right? You can design anything, any machine. Basically, you can imagine like you're creating an airplane, right? And the airplane can be taking any shape you want, but it have to fly, right? So I think traction is the number one thing. Number two thing, you need to be sexy.
Oh.
You need to be sexy as a business, because you need to think on the shoes of the investor. If they were to buy something on the shop for Christmas, for their wife or for their daughter, how would they tell the story of why they bought this product? And similarly, for a company, people with money or institutions with money will always look for a story on why they actually bought this thing, right? So you need to think to the eyes of this institution which you are asking money. How are you sexy? How are you part of their narrative? How are you part of making them feel better in their place in the world and being proud of talking about you? Some companies will be trying to do AI and look more powerful with artificial intelligence. So they will invest in any AI company just to be able to say, oh yeah, I invested in an AI company last week, and being proud about it, right? So that's why AI companies are sexy, right? So for you, you need to be sexy, and you need to find what is the story that you design that is making this company, your company, sexy to the eyes of this potential investor, right? Something that will make them be proud of talking about that to their family or to their friends. Number three, I will say you need to be a really good negotiator, and by being a good negotiator, you need to make people miss out a little bit, right? So everyone knows FOMO, right? What FOMO means, right? So when Facebook raised money the first time, they made everyone FOMO, right? Because they say, oh, sorry, we can raise only $10 million, but we already have 9 million, so sorry, we cannot take your money, right? So you need to reverse the table if you want to be a successful fundraiser. You need to make FOMO play. And how does that work? It's when you talk to investors, you need to make them feel like, and you need to be confident about that yourself as well. That either without them, you're gonna grow and you're gonna become a success story, right? And if they are not the one investing in you, they will be missing out and they will regret it later. And to be able to be so confident, it takes balls. Sorry for the language, but it takes really much a lot of work to justify you to be really confident about your product or about your team, and it takes a lot of effort as well. So you cannot create fun if you're not really committed as well. So it comes back to the point we were talking earlier about patience and making it real, right? So yeah, I think is the last trick. And how do you implement that? I'm not sure I want to share all my tricks right now.
We'll see. It's all right. I mean, like tractions, be sexy, and a good negotiator. I think it is three of the, I think probably like top most important sort of like factor that you need to have when you do fundraising, right? Another super hot question I got, I've been asked this question like, many times. Do like if the teams want to get fundraising, if they want to raise fund, do they need to go through all those accelerators, or do they need to do it by themselves? Or, I mean, what is the path that they should follow?
good question. So accelerators are like Chula, right? Like
For example,
cool.
good one.
Some people need it, some people don't.
Okay.
But to be able to thrive in the society, you need to have badges, right? So even though Mark Zuckerberg is a dropout, he still have the badge of Harvard because he got selected there, right? So the story of any monkey can build a startup and become a $1 billion mogul is not that real, because it's not any monkey who can get into Harvard, right? You need to pay maybe $500,000 over 3 years. So it's really restricted to what we call the high society in Thailand, right? And in general is, families. So accelerators, if you don't have the chance to got Harvard, for example, or Chura or others, you can leverage on that to get your stamp, and that can help. Also, for people who are building a business for the first time and who never made money their own way, you're not gonna learn that by yourself quickly enough to be not wasting 10 years of your life. So you can go by yourself and learn things, next 10 years and maybe make your first $1 million 10 years later, or you can do an accelerator that will potentially teach you how to make $1 million next 6 months. And I'm talking about US dollar, not Hong Kong dollar. I will not say every accelerators are capable of this, and I highly recommend many entrepreneurs to not do actually accelerators, because the quality of the accelerators they can access to in the region is maybe not as good as one in the US or others. So you need to be cautious about your choice of accelerator. And my suggestion here would be not to really go the traditional way. Just like a school, right? If you go and you apply to get on Harvard, you probably never get there, right? But there's other ways you can get to Harvard, not by going through the normal curriculum, right? So I would recommend always people who want to be entrepreneur to be hackers in the way they try to get things and go get it. Right. So if you don't get into the accelerator, you can always find the door, the back door, right? Or you can ask recommendation to someone who've done it. Or for example, for 500 startups, we've got the chance to be the first startup for Thailand to be going to California for 6 months to do the accelerator, and got actually rejected by the local Thai accelerator, the local 500 startup team, which was just 2 guys at the time. They didn't want to help us because we were a bunch of foreigners, right? So I went through the back door of the California accelerator, and we got selected there, right? So always hack your way through and don't let people say no. If you
That's great. Yeah, I mean, totally agree with you. I mean, basically, you need to have a clear goal, right? The process or the pattern to achieve the goal, it's one thing, but you need to get a right mindset on the goals, and then be the hacker, not be the follower. Good. Another very hot questions that I've been asked a lot when they are doing fundraising or going to the investor round. As you know, there are several type of pitch, right? It can be like, a sales pitch, investor pitch, and so on. Can you give the audience a bit of trick when you do like investor pitch, like what to be included, what to be emphasized, what to be highlighted? A few tricks enough. That doesn't have to be all of your tricks.
I will. Right now, we are actually fundraising kind of for Series B for Getlings, but I'm also raising for a few other companies. So maybe I can share you. How many people are in that audience today?
Quite a lot. I think 500-600 people now.
Okay, so that's not much. Good. So I can say this is confidential. Okay, but I share you how I'm pitching.
But just to keep in mind, right, we have the 120 teams from 30 countries around the globe. So it depends. It depends on you. If you want to share, it's fine.
So yesterday I was pitching to Cacao. Do you know Cacao?
Yeah.
Nice. So I got on a Zoom call with the vice chairman of Cacao. He's a really rich guy, right? So that's the one-time pitch, right? And I share with you my pitch with him. So I was like, hello, Mr. David. We're Getlings. We've been 4 to 5 years into the journey of future of work and digital transformation of Southeast Asia. So we've been invested by Alibaba and ScII. Lately, 2 months ago, the Hong Kong government, as well as the largest family office of Hong Kong, Adrian Cheng, and the Jack Ma-owned newspaper company invested in to be able to complete a 3-month, $8 million US round. We're looking for another 10 million US allocation. We already got 5 million in the bank from that round. And Getlings is the largest Southeast Asia technology hiring marketplace. We have now 5 million users connecting the Southeast Asia to the rest of the world through technology jobs. Sales are doubling every year, and we break even last quarter. Yeah, that's
cool,
good opening. Like that's just a good hammer to open a door, right? But you need to have this real as well, right? You cannot just make it up, right?
Of course, right?
Because if you make it up to open the door, then anyway, next week you're gonna have the due diligence with the real question and the numbers, right? Sure. So you need to be able to build something which is backed up with reality, but in the same time you need to pitch it with a certain angle, which maybe is not true today, but could become. And I call this the reality angle. 30 degrees, 90 degrees. Right. You cannot go 180. No, this doesn't work. Right. But if you keep pitch around 30, 45 degrees, then that's okay, because this is real, and you also share about the dream, right? So I think this is the way I pitch. If it can help you guys.
Nice. I think they can learn a lot of things from those. I got a couple more questions for you. I hope you don't mind. Somebody asks, like, who do you learn fundraising from?
There is this really good book. Let me find it for you.
Okay, that's nice.
This book.
Okay.
Never Split the Difference. This is
I see.
This is a book which is been written from Chris Voss.
Yep.
He's a FBI top hostage negotiator.
Yes. Never Split the Difference.
So that guy, went into the situation where some bad boys took in hostage 100 people into the bank and threatened to kill them if they don't get like 10 million US. And this guy come in on the phone and talk them through until they either release 100 people or kill 100 people.
Right.
And so that's one of the best negotiator on the planet. And he's now teaching negotiation for sales, but also international relations and geopolitics at Harvard, and a few other universities. So the academics are looking at his experience to create curriculum of universities. So those are stuff that you can't learn at school, right? Those are stuff that eventually his knowledge will become a theory maybe 10 years from now. And I think you want to look at that. You don't want to look at all these random how to be entrepreneur videos on YouTube and all these things. I think this is a lot of scam. Of course, you can maybe basics there, but you won't learn to be different or to be competitively better compared to the other 100,000 entrepreneurs that are trying to compete with you in your space, right? So I think you're gonna really get outside of your comfort zone, and I think you have more chance to learn to do business by talking to artists or talking to expert negotiators sometime than watching entrepreneurship wannabe videos. So that's my 2 cents. And for me, I've been learning from these people, but also mentors, right? I think you're gonna find a mentor. You're gonna find one who in his life have raised more than $10 million or who have developed a more than $10 million asset portfolio, and you're just gonna ride with him and you're gonna help him out for free just to be able to spend time with him and understand how he thinks. That's what I've done honestly the last 10 years. Being intern and working for free for other people who are richer than me, and still today I have money, but I still hang out with very wealthy people to learn from them.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Learn from the best, right?
Yeah.
Learn from the best. Nice. I got 2 more questions. The first one would be, that's a good one. The guys in the audience want you to give them 3 things for entrepreneur who want to fundraise need to remember. Maybe 3 things.
3 things.
Yeah.
So everyone say you need to dream big. I think this is wrong. I think dreaming big make you being depressed if you don't realize your dream, right?
True.
I think what you need to do is you need to visualize. And that's very different compared to dreaming. Dreaming is you're asleep. Visualizing is you're awake and you are almost meditating, right? So in the morning, and I'm not saying I'm doing that every day, but I think the best day I've got are the days where before to sleep, I spend 5 minutes, not on my phone on my bed, but visualizing what I want to achieve tomorrow, what I want to see happening in my life tomorrow, next 3 days, next 7 days, next month, next 3 years, next 10 years. It's not every day I can get up to the 10 years thing, okay? But probably every 3 months, I try to push myself to visualize it until next 10 years. Maybe a minimum twice a year.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you cannot see where your life is going in your imagination, how do you want the world to give you that?
That's true.
Right? If you control your environment, then your environment controls you. And then you become a slave of anyone who is stronger than you psychologically and will convince you to do things for him or for her. And then you end up not living your life, but being the realizator of someone else's life, right? So that's entrepreneurship, but that's for everything. I think visualization is the number 1 advice.
Okay.
That I recommend to everyone, and that saves a lot of time, because once you see things, then somehow it's just happening. I could tell you plenty of stories, like I just see something and then boom, I meet a guy or girl who is pitching me this thing or who wants to do this thing, and then this thing is happening, right? Okay. Visualization, number 1. Number 2 is to share your visualizations. Share your dreams. always have a project to introduce yourself. Don't say, your name is Ronnie, right?
Yeah.
Never say, hey, I'm Ronnie. Say, hey, I'm Ronnie. I want to create a boat trip next week or next month.
I love that. I love that.
I'm a bakery. Or
Okay.
hey, I want to help try and open a bakery next month.
Okay.
Just by doing, you will increase your chances so much to have people helping you, because they will see Ronnie with this hashtag, Ronnie, the guy who's a bakery friend.
Okay.
And then they will you with bakery people. Or I don't know what you want to open, maybe not a bakery, but whatever, right?
Let's do a beer bar then.
Yeah. And create momentum around your ideas, and people will naturally connect you with your project, and with more people interested in supporting your project, being clients, being users or investors. So share your visualization all the time is my second recommendation. Third recommendation, you gotta build some grit. So grit is, maybe people call it resilience. It's capacity of not stopping after having punched, right? So when the guy on the TV MMA fight is not giving up, there is a lot of physical aspect, but a lot of it is what we call the mental, right? This is grit, resilience. So this is something that is a bit maybe genetical, but I think a lot of experience can build that as well. So I think grit is really much when you can do something for maybe 6 months without stopping, right? Maybe it's gonna be a video game. Where for me it's been video game at the beginning. I used to love play video games so much. I really wanted to become the best at something in a video game, or I wanted to become the best at something playing guitar, for example, or maybe being the best at something playing Legos or whatever, right? It have to be a long-term, no incentive realization project, right? And if you have to get used to work on these long-term, no incentive, but maybe high wins projects, you will be able to build a company, because that's exactly what's the company. It's a long-term, no incentive at the beginning, but potentially high return project. So yeah, those will be my 3 advice. Number 1, visualize. Number 2, share your visualization. And 3, develop your grit. Sorry, pardon my French, to build something great.
Okay, that's great. That's great. I mean, it's pity we have a limited time. We got so many more questions, but I mean, how can they learn more from you? How can they contact you? I mean, just in case they have more questions to ask you about fundraising, about pitchings, about idea validating, anything. Can you share your contacts so they can contact you later on?
Sure. You can have my Calendly. So my Calendly is like my name, John, and calendly.com/John. You book there. You will also receive a couple of emails with my blog and other LinkedIn. Other things.
All right, guys, that's great. So don't forget to get in touch with John later on. I mean, I'm pretty sure he got more to teach you about, I mean, not only fundraising and stuff. All right. Thank you for today, John. I hope we can meet in person very soon. Maybe we can get some beers together and some Rika. You like Rika?
Sure, Rika. Lots of friends. Nice. Good catch.
That's right. Okay. All right.
And enjoy your entrepreneurship journey. Best of luck, and don't forget to visualize a lot.
Okay, visualize a lot, guys. Thank you a lot, John. I will see you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, guys. That's one of the very informative and constructive sessions that we have. We are maybe like 10 minutes late, but I think we should be fine. Next, we are on the fourth session, which is the policy incentives for social enterprise. I believe this is one of the quite an interesting topic that we might want to know. Together with me, we have Mr. David Lim, Program Lead in Social Enterprise Accreditation and Partnership Teams of MAGICs, or the I think Malaysian government innovation and creativity, something like that. If you're ready, David.
Yep. Hi everyone. Hi Ronnie.
Hi David, how are you today?
Good. How's everyone?
I think they are fine. I mean, if you are sleeping, if you are awake, so I think they should be fine.
All right. That was a very good session. I mean, I always love to listen to entrepreneurs to share themselves. I mean, we are ecosystem builder. I mean, we prefer to listen to the entrepreneur story. It's more exciting and more empowering. Yeah. Hopefully the session coming up for the another half an hour is not too boring for everyone.
Should be fine. It should be fine. It's more about incentive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But before we get to the session, can you please briefly introduce yourself to the audience, briefly?
Sure. So hi everyone. I'm David. I'm from MAGIC. So MAGIC stands for Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Center. So we are the spearheading agency that is in charge of growing and nurturing social entrepreneurship and also the wider social innovation ecosystem in Malaysia. So we are a government agency under the Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. So we do a lot of policy advisory as well to the government on what are the policies that can actually introduce to support more growth and more awareness on social enterprises, and also more support for the social enterprises. So I'm going to start sharing my screen over here.
Please go ahead.
Okay. And I'm going to do a very simple introduction about MAGIC and also what are the policy incentives available in Malaysia.
Sure.
And then after that, we can jump into a small discussion and take on questions as well. Yeah?
Certainly.
Cool. Just give me a second. Okay, so this is MAGIC, as you can see. We are based in about 30 minutes from the Kuala Lumpur, which is the capital of Malaysia. So we have been here since end of 2014. We're serving mainly two ecosystems, which is basically startups ecosystem, the tech-enabled startups, and also social enterprises. Right? So just gonna a bit chunky over here, a bit wordy about what we are doing, what we are aiming. But basically, in short, what MAGIC does is we don't really do magic. What we really do is we have capacity building for like boot camps or accelerator programs for social enterprises to upskill themselves, to grow. And after that, we also, through our partners, we bring them market access and funding access to further grow the social enterprises to a bigger scale or even scale up regionally. And our target is not just on startups or social entrepreneurs themselves, but our target is also corporate and also government, which we're actually encouraging like corporate social innovation and also public social innovation as a whole. So this is a brief introduction of what is social enterprise under the social enterprise accreditation guideline. So in Malaysia, we have this policy. It's not yet a formal policy, it's still a guidelines. It's a social enterprise accreditation guidelines, which is actually spearheaded by MAGIC. The main aim of the accreditation is to certify and to also clarify the standards and a definition of social enterprise in Malaysia. So we have a working definition over here, which is the social enterprise is a registered business entity. So you have to be registered, no matter you are registered as a business or you register as a society, but has a business model. And you also proactively create social or environmental mission that actually have impact, which over here, of course, in icon, we are represented by the target beneficiary and also the social mission over here. And the last is that a social enterprise at the end of the day is not just an NGO. It has a very active and sustainable business model to sustain itself. So actually, if you go online in MAGIC website as well, you will see we have a very specific criteria. How do we determine the social enterprise? So basically, you have to be more than 50% depending on your business transactions to justify the enterprise proportion. And of course, there are different criteria to justify the social impact and environmental impact. So then it combines together, becomes social enterprise. All right. So to be accredited in Malaysia, right now we have one active policy to support this is that after you're accredited, you can actually get the tax incentives benefit to issue the receipts to the donors for them to enjoy the tax exemption. So this is one of the existing policy, and of course for Magic, we are also trying to encourage different kind of policy intervention to support the growth of the social enterprises. Yeah, and next, so I'm just going to show roughly on what is Magic's or perhaps the Malaysian landscape of the policy landscape in the coming months. So as you can see on the left is that right now we are focusing on the business recovery, revenue recovery, particularly post COVID-19. Right now, Malaysia, I think we are entering the third phase of movement control order. So I think most of the people are on the road, but of course we are very mindful of the social distancing. And most of social enterprises are actually very busy widening their revenue stream and also upskilling themselves, digitalizing themselves to actually tap into the different markets to recover what they've lost for the past few months. So as you can see over here, the first one is Malaysia government actually launched a matching grant, has allocated about 10 million ringgits as a matching grant for social enterprises to match on the crowdsourced portion by the social enterprises. So basically during the COVID-19, what is really encouraging for Magic to see is that although a lot of MSMEs are actually in a dormant status because of the movement control, but you can see a lot of social enterprises because they have all the beneficiaries at heart. So they're still very active on the ground despite of the whole movement control and still serving a beneficiary and collecting donations. So I think this whole movement during the COVID-19 actually captures the attention of the government, and hence towards the end of the movement control, the Malaysian government actually introduced this matching grant, which will be launched technically tomorrow for the application for up to about 500,000 ringgit maximum as a matching grant to help the social enterprises to recover and also to grow further and to digitalize themselves. So besides the matching grant, Malaysia government also actually has introduced a lot of upskilling subsidies and subsidization for the digitalization. So as you can see over here, we are also launching more social procurement campaigns for the coming quarter to support more social enterprises market revenue. Basically to promote in social media, and also we are working with online e-commerce platform to provide more revenue for the social enterprises to be on. And of course, we're also providing more SE incentives. So SE in Malaysia, we basically just is the short form of social enterprise. And we're providing more incentives to provide like corporate services like legal, accounting and services, because very often as a capacity building agency in Magic, we realize that not a lot of time, the most helpful part is not just in a classroom to help the entrepreneurs to build their skills, is actually to help them alongside as they are actually building their business. So we actually introduced the number 3 and number 4 items quite recently to support our social enterprises. So the incentives including like subsidized corporate legal services, accounting and finance services, and also like HR, talent acquisition. And also we're introducing mentorship for social enterprises to that has graduated from our programs to grow even further. Because a lot of times we realized it's not just in a classroom, because a lot of times after 2-3 months, they are in a classroom. When they go back to their business circle, a lot of things they learn would actually be forgotten. So the best way is actually to have a guide that is probably in the corporate circle to actually guide them to grow further. So this is the mentorship. And of course, the next one is in September, we hope that we could actually launch a social innovation fest. Why I say we hope, because we're still looking at the COVID situation. So we really hope that we can have a really good social distance social innovation fest in September that will bring all the different social innovation initiatives under one roof to showcase to the nation what actually social innovation is and what value it could provide. As we can see actually quite an increasing attention after COVID-19 on the social innovation itself. And of course, in the longer term, as you see on the right-hand side, is that we are actually working very closely with a lot of different corporates, including big banks and also the plantation property companies, to change their way of business, to do good through the collaboration with social enterprises and through the adoption of different social innovation practices into the corporate itself. So, so corporate social innovation, we're also encouraging a social procurement from the corporate side to purchase more from the social enterprises. And of course, at last, we are working very closely across different ministries to increase more incentives to support, let's say, like awareness among the public and also in universities on social entrepreneurship. And also, we are trying to encourage more impact investment through incentives as well, which is in the proposal. So we are actually looking forward in October when the government announced for the next budget. Of course, for the MAGIC side in the long term as well, we are trying to propose more incentives in the government side to increase the market access and also the funding access. So right now in Malaysia, we also have some P2P financing that is being subsidized by the government for the social enterprises. And so we are encouraging more even on the social procurement from the big corporate and also from the government side to provide an ease of entering into market for the social enterprises. So this would be a very quick overview of how Malaysia and MAGIC is helping the social enterprises to grow in Malaysia. But of course, I would say actually, as we are sharing with everyone over here, I would say regionally, Thailand and also Korea would have the even better support ecosystem, which if everyone is interested to learn more about policy incentives, I also encourage you to actually learn more from Korea, which the leading agency is called Korea Social Enterprise Agency, KOSEA. And also we have ScII Thailand, it's very active. And honestly, in Malaysia, as an ecosystem builder for the social enterprise, I am very, very jealous about the supports that Thailand social enterprises are getting from the government, from the corporate circle. It's very enviable because the understanding and awareness is much deeper among the corporates as well. Of course, if anyone has further interest, another platform that I could introduce is Social Enterprise World Forum, SEWF, where they have a policy forum where they would share more about the policy available to help the social enterprise to grow further. Okay, so Ronnie, I'm gonna pass it back to you. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I can see you have a lot of incentives and promote activities and facilitate a lot of support to the social enterprise in Malaysia, right? I mean, can Thai social enterprise apply to your
actually,
there?
we're still restricting to Malaysian-based social enterprise. But again, as in MAGIC, what we have is if Thailand social enterprise wants to expand to Malaysia, we do have we call it ASEAN Center of Entrepreneurship to help you to set your base over here as well in Malaysia. And as long as you're Malaysian based and you have Malaysian beneficiaries, then actually those benefits will be tappable by the Thailand social enterprises.
Okay, well that's nice. That's good options. And if you guys want to expand your services to Malaysia, please contact me with me straight up.
Yes. We'll do this at MAGIC. We are just like 20 minutes from the airport.
Oh, really? Okay, so that's great. So it's close by. That's great. Quick questions, right? I mean, you have a lot of incentive. You spend like big bucks to support like in a community or ecosystem of social enterprise. How can MAGIC sort of like measure the success of the investment that they put in on those schemes?
Very good question. So basically, we are actually just developing our impact measurement tool to actually measure our grant success and also like what is the impact exactly for social enterprises. Because for every single dollar or ringgit that invested into social enterprise, what is the impact towards the to the society and how does it save government budget? This is something that in our team we are working on, which is very similar to a social value or social return of investment concept. But of course, right now we're starting from the very beginning, which is to measure impact, to manage first. While at the same time, I think 2017, another social innovation agency in Malaysia called Agency Inovasi Malaysia, which actually launched a report on a very SROI-based impact measurement, which they basically break down on each social issues, what is the cost to the government, and how can social enterprises or NGOs can come in to solve the problems and save the government cost. So that's one of the ways to actually measure the impact of social enterprise, and also measure the impact of MAGIC's intervention towards social enterprise. So it's something, it's still a tool that we are still developing at the moment. if there's any international organizations out there that would like to suggest if they have a better tool, do get in touch with us as well. That we want to really improve the tools. And honestly, for Magic's side, because we are also advising the government on what are the policies to support the social development or social entrepreneurship. So this is a very great tool to actually justify the usefulness of social entrepreneurship and social innovation in the country. Yeah.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Magic also facilitate or support like normal tech startups and like you guys are not like limited to social enterprise alone, right?
No. So we have a very two pioneering, I would say, entrepreneurship industry, which is mainly tech-enabled startups. That would be that could be all the way from drone tech. That would be also on the medical technology, and also for social innovation. And also then, of course, we are covering social entrepreneurship itself, where it has a great impact towards the community.
Sure.
So we also recently launched about 5 pillars, which is mainly covering like climate change, the environmental preservation, and also food security, cultural preservation, and the last one would be quality education. We have 5 main pillars across to actually encourage more innovators to go into these areas to target the SDGs. So these are the key areas that we narrow down as the Malaysian key areas for intervention.
I see. In terms of like the maturity state of the social enterprise, they are like super early stage, like mature stage, right? Do you divide your support into those maturity states as well, or does it like include like as a all-in-one intensive package?
So right now we do have a very different stage. So we have all the way from the beginning of seeding, which is like from universities all the way to roadshows to spread about the awareness of social entrepreneurship to seed the idea, and from workshop all the way to boot camps. So where boot camps is about 1 week to about 2 weeks of workshops, very intense educations to learn about how to build a strong social business model canvas, and then also to how to balance between social impact and also your business angle. And that's boot camps. And of course, then we have accelerators, which is up to about a month long of the education, which Malaysia, in the accelerator right now, we're calling it Push. It's basically pushing the social enterprise to scale up their impact. So for this program, we actually provide the grants as well to support them to scale up to probably expand the size of their manufacturing base and their hiring of the beneficiaries, and then we'll expand the impact. So it's one of the experiments that actually government is quite interested to see how scaling up social enterprise can actually bring down the social development costs, while at the same time encouraging economic growth. Is definitely a very encouraging trend to see the attention that's given by the government at the moment. So we had the last stage, which ended as accelerator, and after that we would have intervention like mentorship, and also bringing them market access and connect them to impact investors.
Right, I see. Okay, I guess you have already like incubated and get in touch with lots of startup in Malaysia, right?
Yeah.
Probably like the second to last questions. Do you have any advice or tips or tricks to the young social entrepreneur out there? About to convert their idea to products or prototype? Is there any suggestion for them to move along the way?
Okay. Well, I think just now, actually, the speaker before me actually has a really, really good idea on visualization, which I think that's a very strong idea, because a lot of time when we talk to a lot of beginning social enterprises, they would have a very big ideal, very big dream they want to achieve. And a lot of times they are not checking on the reality, on what is the impact they are making and how they can improve the impact. So when we talk about impact, is basically that there's a very specific problem you are solving, and you have to prove that you are solving the problems. And a lot of times we actually throw back the questions to the social enterprises is that, are you really solving the problems, or is just that the beneficiaries are tagging along your business, and it's just that. So a lot of times we ask the social enterprises to actually dig deeper onto what is their exact impact, and to find more evidence, and at the same time to visualize where they want to grow their business in the future 3 to 5 years, perhaps in the region or perhaps over beyond Malaysia. So I think definitely visualization and measuring your impact, and another thing that I realized is the most important is founder's problem, which a lot of times I think founder's problem. I'm not sure if you have heard that term before. It's it's a lot of ego and a lot of individualistic thing.
Yep.
So, but I think it's the wonderful thing about the entrepreneur journey is that you are working through a life journey of how to work better with other people and how to actually have a legacy, a strong legacy of your business or social enterprise to the next generation. Because you're not just working for yourself, you're not just you working towards the community, but it's the community working with you together. So I think the how to manage the team is one of the most important lessons that most entrepreneurs would find it really amazing to learn along the way.
So true. I totally agree. A founder problem is probably one of the most difficult to handle problem ever. I mean, for each team, But yeah, I mean, I think I really liked your website, like mymagic.my, right? mymagic.my, which is great.
Yeah.
And if you want to explore more incentives or to understand more what role of the magic so is in Malaysia, you can basically type mymagic.my. You won't see Harry Potter, but you will see a lot of incentivized scheme into the website. All right. Thank you so much, David. I mean, it's a great honor to talk to you today, and hopefully we can meet each other in person very soon. I mean, even in Thailand, Malay, right?
Yes, and let's keep in touch. And I hope that I can travel soon to Thailand as well to actually visit more social enterprises, to visit UNDP as well and Chulalongkorn. Yeah.
Sure, certainly. Let me know if you're around. All right.
Yeah, I will. All right.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right. We move. No, actually, yes. We're marching along to the fifth sessions now. It's about sustainable development at corporate executive level. So it's something big with huge idea, huge finance, and sustainable development goals now. Together today with me, we have two experts on this issue. The first one is Mr. Kalam Mackenzie from Yunus, Thailand. And we have Miss Kanokvali Viriya Papakit. Sorry, my bad. I thought you people. So sorry to pronounce it wrong. It's been a long day for me, but anyhow, Kalam, take the stage and just do whatever you want. All right.
Right? No, happy to give you a break, Ronnie. Yeah, great job so far. And no, thanks everyone, and welcome to this session. And it's a pleasure for me to be here, and also to be here with Kanokvali or Pipom. She doesn't mind me calling her that. So to introduce, I'm from Yunus, Thailand. So you saw my big boss earlier in the session, Professor Yunus, and co-founded Yunus Thailand with him and some others. And very excited to have here Pipom, who's from Land and Houses, Mall and Hotels, who you might know for Terminal 21 and Grand Centre Point, but also with PFAN, the Private Finance Advisory Network, where she coaches and advises climate startups. Also with SEED program, where you're supporting eco-inclusive enterprises throughout Thailand, and also with the Thailand Education Partnership as well. So thanks so much for making time, because you're obviously a very, very busy person. But most importantly, you're a friend who I really enjoy having some very interesting discussions with. So I think last week it was Montessori education, and before that we were talking about the inclusive digital economy. But today we're talking about the role of corporates and sustainable development. So thanks again for making time in. I'm just going to fire some questions at you, and then hopefully everybody can benefit a lot from your experience as a managing director, but also with your wealth of experience from other aspects as well. So firstly, what is a corporation from your perspective? How would you define it, and how does that relate to sustainability, if at all?
Thank you for the question, Carlo. If I may, I'd just like to start with saying hi to everyone, that I'm happy to be here. And to answer your question, what is a corporation? I think most of the audience would understand it to be a large legal entity, an organization that's set up. And in traditional sense, I think people will see a large corporation as a profit-making machine. So, but of course, when we look at the business itself, there's risk involved. So when you talk about corporation, it's separation of risk. So the risk stays at the legal entity, and the shareholder gets rewarded if the business makes money. So there's risk and reward element there for corporate. Right. So a corporation, a large corporation, is a large legal entity that separate the risk, separate from the owner.
And do you think then that a corporation has anything to do with sustainability? And
right.
yeah, and
okay,
or should we finish the session now?
That's a great question, because I think we talked about this, and to me the interesting question is, what is sustainability? How do you view sustainability? So I actually Googled map. The first definition that popped up is the ability to maintain something for a long time. Right? So that's one definition. The other definition that I got is actually looking at sustainability from 3 pillars. So you look at it from the angle of economic, right? That means there has to be money coming in. You look at it from the angle of environment. And of course, you look at it from the angle of social. So there are 3 pillars involved here. So when you talk about sustainability, then it depends on your view, your take of sustainability, and the composition. It varies. Some people, or some, at the start of a business, usually people think about money first. So you want to make sure that you make money, for it to last. But over time, a corporation, especially nowadays, start to think of other factors as well. They look at, they have concerns on environment, and they take care of social. So we talk about sustainability, I'll be looking at the 3 pillars.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and I'm sure many of our audience have heard of the shared value concept, where a corporate needs to provide value for its customers and for its business, but also for the environment around it as well. So it's interesting to think of these pillars of sustainability in the context of a business, and can these be separated? But I mean, to ask a question for you. I mean, I also was reading up a little bit, and I was looking at the real meaning of a corporation as a word, and it comes from the Latin of corpus, so the body, and a corporation is a legal body of people. And I think often as people, we're not just money making entities, right? We have a purpose. I mean, your introduction shows that more than anything. You're not just on the corporate side. You're also interested in social aspects as well. So, is the purpose of a business important beyond profit making? And do you see this purpose changing as we look at the topic of the webinar, engaging our future? Do you think the purpose of business is changing?
I think you rightly say, or you highlighted the human factor. And I think it is important to look at that in the context or where you are at that stage. If you talk about you being poor, then of course your thinking would be on how I can make money to survive, right? But this is not to say that people without money would only think about money. I'm saying that if looking from a human factor perspective, there is different degree of money and sustainability that you can take, right? So is purpose important? Definitely purpose is the key of the business. So how you view the business, taking the analogy of human factor, is where you are in your operation. If you have funding from somewhere else, money is less of a concern, and you can do more social or environmental aspects to give that impact. But if you don't have the business aspect at all, if you don't have the economic aspect at all, you can be doing a lot on social and environmental, but the impact could be lessened because there's no economic, there's no the business aspect of it, right? So purpose is key, and how the way I see in purpose is assuming I'm a large corporation that's already making money, right? So you want to do more on social and environmental. The key is how resolved you are in doing that, right? So if you're not so resolved, if you say, I wouldn't say you're not so resolved. If you want to start on something that's doable, you may be looking at your employees, right? So that's doable. You don't have to think big. It's something that you can do, right? So you can start from there, right? And when you come back to the organization itself, when you want to make change as a large organization, it's not that simple because you have processes and you have people that are rooted in their traditional way. So when you want to make change, the resolve is one, right? The other one is the resources that you have and how resourceful you are in changing them, in giving them the perspective that this is something that we want to do next, apart from something that we have done before. So from that angle, the answer is yes, purpose is important. And to change, you have to be resolved. You have to have that resolution, and you ought to be resourceful.
Yeah, I think it's. And do you think the private sector around this, because this is a future-oriented challenge and a future-oriented webinar, so do you think the landscape is shifting? And I mean, from my perspective, a couple of examples come to mind, and one interesting one was I saw about 1 month ago now, Danone, the big food and dairy company, they had 99% of their shareholders voted to shift the purpose of the company to being a public benefit company. This is
not paying out dividend, not paying out dividend. I remember that.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a fundamental shift in the context and the concept of a company. Is that fair, or is this what do you think? And do you think from your experience, do you think this is something we're going to see more of?
Well, first, I think it is definitely shifting. As I said earlier, maybe if I can give an example from a different angle. If you look at investors, before there will be, because they're risking their money in a business. So from their angle, it's risk reward, it's risk and return dimension. So they'll be expecting something back. Right? But nowadays we see that there are the like of impact investors, there are like of philanthropists, there are several of this group of investors are seeing more and more of what fulfills them that's outside of the monetary terms, right? So the shift from the investor side, I definitely can see that. As for corporate, I think over time, when you look at being in a business, in an environment, for you to, let's think of it this way: when we do a business, you have stakeholders, and those stakeholders include the society, right? So before you're saying you are already addressing the customer's need, and your reward is money, right? But if you take it into a larger context, then you say there's something else, there's something more that I can do. So that's, I think, how business are shifting more into addressing the two other pillars outside of the economic. So I see that, yes, I would see that the shift is definitely moving in the right direction.
And I think that's a really interesting segue into, I mean, the one of the topics of the challenge that we're launching and that the audience are involved in is looking at engaging our future for a sustainable society. But I mean, one question I have is can we look at having a sustainable society without sustainable business? And also vice versa, can we have sustainable business even in terms of financial terms without a sustainable society? So maybe we're getting very philosophical here, but it's what's the
that's how we plan to frame this discussion to be more philosophical. Okay, so your question is, can we have one without the other?
Is the sustainability of society and the sustainability of business inseparable, or do we actually, from a corporate angle and from a business angle, have to also consider the sustainability of society in every decision we're thinking about when we're looking at the sustainability of our own business?
In my personal view, is inseparable. Right? The question is more the timing, right? As I said earlier, when you are in a business, when you do stakeholder mapping, society is involved. What's around you is involved, right? So I think these two are intertwined. Let's just look at the just now you said sustainable society. If you're looking at sustainable society, with it being sustainable, then you're looking at having funding for it to last. Where would that funding come from? And that's where I guess the word business comes in, because you cannot be taxing every citizen all the time for the longest time to keep the society sustainable. So I would say that there has to be the economic aspect of it coming in somewhere. So when I answer that, I think that they go together, they're not separable. I'm looking at this in a long span, very long term. So today, if you say that, of course, I can just do business, I can just make money and my business is sustainable and I do not care about society. I'm sure you can, because some corporates would do that. But nowadays, I think, or at least all the corporates that I've come across, they look at other aspects as well. At the very least, what they can do is with their employees or with their suppliers, with all their stakeholders. That's the very least they can do. And if they're strong enough, they can move further. They can expand their purpose or mission to be inclusive. So, yeah, I don't think it's separable. It goes together.
Nice. It's very interesting. And then so to take this kind of rather conclusive qualification then of that businesses have no real other option than to consider sustainability. For the audience who have developed these many innovative ideas and going to be developing these further, who may be looking towards private sector and corporations to be their partners or supporters for their projects as they develop them and as they bring them to real life, what advice would you give the audience in how to work with the private sector, how to build partnerships with corporations?
Okay, the private sector in Thailand, the major ones, the big ones, have things like, well, they have incubation program, they have accelerator program that you can participate, and most also set up a corporate venture capital. So that's the fund they can invest. So the angle that you would go in if you are someone, if you're working on some initiatives that you think will change the world, then you also want to look at the person or the entity that you want to engage with. Right? You want to understand what they do. So if I take an example of traditional business, this is where they are. And if they want to do the corporate themselves, if they want to do something for the world, then their strategic direction may already be shifting. So you want to understand that shift, and you want to see if what you propose to them meets their strategic goal, right? So if that is so, I think the work gets harder because of the advancement in technology and the innovation. So you've got to come up with also something very smart, very sustainable for them to want to work with you. So an idea of, having said that, I'm not saying that you have to work on something really big. It is good to have big dream, but it's also good to have something that's doable. So that if you can see through, then your solution, for example, might not just be picking up a bottle of plastic. You might want to dream big. You might want to see what the total solution is. Even if it's not a drastic one, even if it's just an idea of how you can recycle the plastic. The plastic still being the cheapest and durable option for most businesses. If your idea is that, but if you can think through to that, then the solution that you propose is not just collecting one bottle of plastic. It is that big picture. But then how you get to that is when you need a lot of work to get there. And surely if you get private sector involved, they can provide you with valuable information on the whole value chain, for example. Yeah, so definitely, if you want to get involved with private sector, that would be a good idea. They have incubation accelerator program. They have capital that they can invest with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are attracted to partnering with the corporation or private sector because of what you mentioned there, this potential for scale and potential of scale of economy that they've obviously built up over a long period of time. But to try and ask you a very practical question for the audience, if, for example, some of our contestants are going into a meetings with a private sector, I guess over Zoom at the moment these days. But are there any tactics or advice or best practices you would suggest in terms of practical things that you've seen work or you haven't seen work, or maybe you advise some of the startups you support?
The first, and I believe to be one of the most important thing that you must have is you have to be passionate. You have to know in your heart that this is something that you want to do. But once you get into doing it itself, then to me, it's a totally different picture. Dreaming it right, getting it right, and actually implementing and making it work, to me, is a totally separate thing, right? You need a different set of skills to make it work. And I think that's where as youngsters today, or someone who want to make a difference, I think that's where 21st century skills come in. That's where you're not only talking about passion. You have to be talking about what you can do right, what kind of skills you need. So everything that we talk about in terms of grit, in terms of having growth mindset, in terms of creativity, in terms of critical thinking, you have to have all that to get it right. So if you're someone coming in to talk to investors, first you have to be passionate. Then when you go to them, you also have to know what you want to ask from them, right? And again, just asking from them is not simply, okay, how much money I need and what equity stake I give you. That is too simplified. You need to understand at least what the business model is. So you know that this is the problem you're tackling. There's already demand. Demand is there whether this is profit making or not. In terms of social business, I think the demand is even more. It's more the pricing and the gap that you cannot close, right? And that's where business model in some sense is more difficult. And then you go in to talk to investors or private sector and you want them to come in. The convincing them that you are doing for triple bottom impact, you are doing for economic, you are doing for social and environmental, takes your passion and takes understanding what that model is, right? Otherwise, you might be better off in some of the enterprises I come across, they might be better off if they go with grant money first, because they want to try to create the impact. And maybe in business term, we call it traction. You want to get that traction. Once you have that, then the business model can come in, and it can be two-tier pricing. It can be different, all sort of model can come in, and you can expand from there. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents worth on what you need to have: passion and understanding of what you do.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. And I think also what you were saying about timing as well, choose it, going in at the right time, and the time for grants and the time for investment conversations as well is very, very interesting. And I think on the topic of character as well, on 21st century skills and the need for character these days. And I think one really interesting kind of characteristic, if you like, that we see now is that young people are particularly interested, and we see from the many applications we've got for this competition, young people are very interested in sustainable development and sustainability. But many of those watching are also going to go and work in the private sector. Not everybody is going to go on to be an entrepreneur. So what would be also your advice for someone that's had a career, a very long and successful career in the private sector, about how to balance sustainability and how to keep that passion for social impact whilst having a career in the private sector?
Well, I think that we as a person has to understand that there are things that this is ikigai talking. There are things that you love, that you are passionate about. There are things that you can do well. There are things that pays you for doing it. And there's also another thing that the world needs. How do you balance that? Right. So if you can understand that you can go all out being passionate, but there you cannot support yourself. That in itself, you are putting burden on society. So that bit of aspects you have to take into consideration when you go in and do something. But once going into private sector, of course, depends on the degree of the private sector, how far they are in terms of their sustainability goal. But just generally speaking, you go into a business. I think the mindset is you just have to be very open-minded and have to understand that there's no ready-made solution. Because again, I say that the corporates that I have approached, all of them want to change, all of them want to do something, but it's not so simple. Take, for example, if they want to take renewable energy, if today they can just switch out of the old business and get into the new business and being guaranteed that that new business or that new technology is the right solution, I think everyone would work hard to get to that point. But it's not that simple. It's not that straightforward. So if you are kind of just climbing up the ladder, the impression might be, why aren't you moving at all? So it's like a big ship. They are moving, but you just don't feel that they are moving. So if you go in with an open mindset, then I think it'll be easier longer term for you to change their mind. And during that period, you also acquire skill. So once you get up to the level that you can really make the difference or calling the shots, then you can do so, right? So again, and this I'm saying from traditional sense of business. But of course, if you are in deep tech, probably you can do things very fast because then you are like reinventing the wheel and you are doing something just totally different. So that depends on where you are.
Yeah, and I think maybe a topic for another chat or another webinar another time is this concept of social entrepreneurship as well, which is very interesting. And many of the corporates that I've worked with and done kind of internal training programs with are now really interested in social entrepreneurship and how this actually engages young people and is a talent at one level is a talent acquisition tool, and at another level is also a great way of actually developing the company from a shared value or a social business perspective as well. But I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking, Ajahn Ronnie, do we have any questions from the audience as well that we can that maybe can be asked?
Hello. I think we have a couple of questions from the audience, but I think it's time for 10 minutes break before the panels, and I probably email you to the questions, and then maybe you can answer some next webinar on social entrepreneurship.
we got our plug-in.
That's good. All right. So thank you today, Column, for your time. ขอบคุณพี่ป้อมมากนะครับ ขอบคุณมากครับ Thank you very much, พี่ป้อมfor your times too. I mean, it's great pleasure to have you two in the sessions, right? And hopefully we can meet each other soon in person.
Yes, definitely. And looking forward to that Koh Samui trip, Ajahn Ronnie.
Let's go Samui. All right, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
People.
Bye. Sawadee.
All right, for you guys, we will have 10 minutes break. Don't leave, don't move, don't change any, don't turn off the computer, don't do anything else. Just leave the things like this. All right, we will be stay stream on this streamyard.com and the YouTube link. And we have 10 minutes break. We have panelists at 4 p.m. until 4:45, and then we will have the announcement of 10 finalists plus the mentor. All right, so stay tuned. See you in 10 minutes. Ciao. Don't leave. I can leave, right? Hi guys, welcome back to the panel discussion session of today webinar. I hope you guys already have a good break, and we have one more session to go from now to 4:45 p.m. before we announce the 10 finalists of the competitions. Together with me today, we have a few guests from outside, which most of my good friends. Introducing first, we have Mr. David Galipu, who is a co-founder and partners at SDGx. Next, we have Dr. Fayez Char, who is the director of Yunus Thailand Foundation. And last but not least, Ms. Keelan, entrepreneurships and innovation consultant, UNDP Bangkok Regional Hub. Hi. Okay.
Hello.
How are you guys? Good.
Good. Good.
Okay. Excellent. That's good. Okay, so the theme of the today panel discussion will be on the future of sustainable development, which is I think it's very and abstract theme indeed. I'm thinking about what format should we start. Should we? I'm thinking about Oh yes, maybe I let you guys to briefly introduce yourself quickly to the audience first, and then before we go to the questions, all right? Maybe we start with the ladies. Ms. Keelan, please.
Thank you, Ajahn Roni. Hello, everyone. You can call me Linka. I am also calling from Bangkok. So I've been working in UNDP Asia Pacific office. So together with Savi, we're working on an initiative called Youth Collab, which is started and collated by UNDP and City Foundation covering Asia Pacific. So what we're doing is to empower young people to start the journey of social entrepreneurship and innovation for the acceleration of so I've been working on this initiative for 3 years and a half. I'm also living in Thailand for that long period, so I'm very familiar with this region. I've been to many countries to support the youth social entrepreneurship work. So yeah, very happy to be part of this conversation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Maybe David's next.
Introductions. I couldn't hear you before.
Oh, you?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, now I'm good. Hi, everybody. I'm David Galipo. A little bit of a background. I'm Canadian. I work and play in Bangkok at the moment. My background, I was also part of the first.com, so I had my own startups. I've been through the process that you're going through. I worked in corporate finance for the longest time, and I worked for the United Nations for the last 10 years, really looking at their social innovation, their social entrepreneurship, their social impact investing. So I'm quite familiar on that side. And currently, for the last year, we've created a company out of Singapore called SDGx, which really looks at deep technology and the positive impact that it can create on a research side, venture building, investment funds. And I also work together with, over there, I guess he is, Dr. Faiz, created the Yunus Near Future Lab that really is looking at a lot of the research around how some of the new technologies can create positive impact, but then how do you wrap that up into a social business as well? And so that becomes very relevant for what we're doing here today.
Nice. Okay, thank you, David. Now next to Dr. Faiz.
My turn. Yes. Well, thank you, Dr. Ronnie. Hi, Linka, David. It's wonderful to be back here. And if I started on my introduction, it would end very quickly because I have nothing as interesting as the Linka and David. I've mostly been an entrepreneur, which at a time when entrepreneurship was not sexy. And so that's why I ended up at a university trying to teach people what I didn't do anymore. No, but seriously, this is I represent here the Asian Institute of Technology, the Yunus Center at AIT, and also the recently chartered Yunus Foundation of Thailand. Our job has been, for the last 10 years, we've been in Thailand. Our job has been to promote a culture of social enterprise, social innovation, and also getting young people involved in choosing entrepreneurial careers rather than trying to study for jobs and so on. Now, I don't know if we have been successful or whether the entire world has created a tilt towards more independent, youth-led businesses, but I think we're here at a very good time. As David mentioned, apart from the Near Future Lab, another initiative that we started actually in this very building at your school, Dr. Ronnie, is the SDG Lab. And the idea of the SDG Lab is to identify business opportunities within the SDGs and then convert them into social enterprises. Some of them are more easy to identify, such as clean water, education, healthcare, or environmental impact mitigation businesses, etc. Some of them are a little bit more difficult, especially when you look at like poverty, for instance. How can you have a business that eliminates poverty and so on? So the idea of the lab is to put young people into challenging questions where they can create businesses out of the SDGs, and by doing that, as they earn money, hopefully, the SDGs get addressed and wealth gets created. So that's what we do. So thank you for having me again.
Okay, that's nice. That's quite long, actually, Dr. Fayaz.
I tried to stretch it, I didn't want to make a short one.
Okay, no, that's fine. Totally fine.
I threw you off with that short thing comment.
Okay. No. So what we're going to do here is probably like less formal than the previous sessions, right? Probably like David's leaving and maybe he doesn't like me at all. David, come on.
I think he's fixing his hair.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. So what we do in these sessions, right? Maybe we take a few turns, informal stuff like more conversation, like fire chat and so on. Maybe I play some games with you. So I ask you to think about a question regarding the future of sustainable development goals. All right, and you can, and we take turn to ask. So we ask one question, and we let the remaining three try to answer. All right. If you can't answer the question, then you are out of the game. All right. So you have to answer all those questions. All right. Let wait for David a little while, then we let him to someone.
Right.
Okay. So let's think about the questions.
This basically means we could have gone on longer with our introductions. But David's back now. Sorry.
It's okay. So David, so what we do in this session is we think about question. Each what question each. Like you, me, the Fayaz, and can I call you Linka, right?
Linka.
Yeah, Linka. We will think about question one each, and we ask the remaining three the questions. The remaining three have to answer the question, otherwise they have to do something stupid.
Well, we're going to create one what?
One question about
we have to ask each other one question each.
Exactly about the future of SDG. All
Okay.
Right?
So everyone is moderator and everyone is panelist here.
Make it more fun. It's a long day today.
I like it. This is good.
Who's going first?
Yes. I'll go. I have my question ready.
Okay, you go first.
All right. So because we talk a lot about young people and SDG and future. So towards the future, I'm curious about how do we build trust between generations? So let me elaborate more. So what I meant was that there are a lot of young people are saying that they're not given enough space to be creative, to propose their solutions. So young people saying that the other generations are not giving them enough space to create, and the other generation are saying that, but we are not sure if we should trust young people or not because they haven't shown us some of the commitment or some of the potential. So it's a chicken and egg question. Young people need to take actions, but then they also need space. And so in this scenario, how can we build trust between generations?
I can answer this question. Me first.
Okay.
I think the best way to do is we have to create a sandbox. We have to create a space they can try, they can fail, the sand easily. No, blaming, no bias, no nothing, no judging. And I think we can use those sandbox to be as an example of the case to build trust. I mean, it's okay to be fail, right? I mean, if you're doing the innovation, you fail all the time. But if somehow it's success and it can create some value, then you use that to amplify, to sort of advertise, and I think that's going to be the best way to build trust among different generations. Good answer.
So good. I'll give you an A+.
Thank you so much. David, you
I'm not going to say it's a bad answer, but what's really interesting is because of this COVID situation that we're in, trust is now being redefined. So before, for example, when you've got a boss that has all its staff sitting in the office, sees what they do, when you've got a professor that's got students sitting in the lecture room, that trust is there. It's almost got a little bit of peer pressure around it. But now that this sort of digital transformation has happened, people are going virtual, they're studying from home, they're working from home. The trust is now being redefined. And that's it's a bit of a power transfer from the boss or the professor back down to staff or the student, because now the student has the responsibility, or staff have the responsibility, to get the work done and deliver it without having a boss over the head all the time. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is exactly what Ronnie was saying, that you've really got to experiment. We're moving into an area where there's going to be a lot of experimentation and a lot of brand new tools, platforms, ecosystems, and skills where experimentation can happen. And if we want to push ahead, if we want to create positive impact, for example, we've got to test that, because it's not as quantifiable as a profit and loss balance sheet. That's pretty quantifiable. You can figure out if you're going to make money or not make money, but are you going to deliver the impact that you're going to promise to deliver? And you've got to test that. And I think that's exactly, now we do need a test bed when you start to look at technology solutions. But if you're looking at service solutions, and this is sort of the interesting question, Ronnie, if you're looking at service solutions, what is that test bed? And you can have focus groups, you can do surveys, but what is that test bed on the service side? And a lot of the startups that applied have this sort of service operation. So maybe that's an interesting point where Dr. Faiz can sort of pick up. That was a good answer.
Great. Well, thank you for setting me up.
Come on, that's a sheet, right?
As most people would, I'll completely skirt the question, and I'll refer you to a technique called trust building or partnership brokering. It's a subject of some research that we did with another colleague of mine, and it comes out that there are actually, you can build trust by the numbers now, because there are certain behavioral handles that trust is derived from. Little things like showing up for a meeting on time, saying what you do, doing what you say. These are behavioral aspects which most people, and I'm not picking on the youngest person in this panel here, right? But some of our younger friends feel that they are now not bound by some of these societal parameters, which incidentally, believe it or not, are also trust building factors. So if you create the element of trust by behaviors, then behaviors have to also be looked at as one of the key contributors or ingredients of a trust building exercise. So I just wanted to start with this. So I think when young people expect trust, we should give it to them, because really, as older people, we've not been very good with fulfilling some of our commitments to young people, in terms of empowering them in trust, or in terms of trusting them, in terms of letting them have some freedom in trying out new things, as Ronnie you're saying, as David you're saying. And so I think where Link is coming from is this behavioral constraint that we have in building trust. So the older people will say, no, these guys are not mature enough, experienced enough, and so they'll make mistakes. And the young people are saying, hey, if we don't make mistakes, how the heck are we going to refine and fine tune and improve our behaviors? But this discussion will continue. It will never be resolved. There will always be people among older people who will trust younger people, and there'll be always people among older people who will not trust younger people. So that's why I start with saying there are now behavioral handles that you can reinforce. So if young people are empowered to take choices or make decisions on their own, well, that's the only way they will learn how to make decisions or make choices or muddle through various decisions, etc. So that behavior from the relatively mature, experienced, older people must be encouraged. But at the same time, just writing off this societal pressure, this peer pressure, this demand for conformity as unnecessary interference by other people is also probably sometimes taken too far. Young people must also then repay their trust by responsible decisions. And that's where the sandbox model comes in. Sandboxes are great places because the consequences of the mistakes that you make do not immediately overflow the sandbox. They can if you get naughty, but they don't. So I think the answer in this question is, so I've successfully evaded the answer by saying that we can do the numbers thing. There are behavioral studies which show how we can build trust between young and old people. Let's follow those, and also we can allow young people to while they're also showing trust and respect to tradition, allow them some freedom to make their mistakes in a sandbox.
Thank you so much. I really like all the answers combined together, actually create a lot of dimensions for this discussion. And also for those participants who joined this challenge, I want to say that you are already taking your actions and showing your commitment that you want to, create something, you want to propose your solutions. So very congratulations and good job for that. And keep taking actions. For speaking from young person perspective, we should also, as what Dr. Fai say, that focus on, be aware of our actions, how it, create impressions to other people, and don't let this kind of mistrust or distrust kind of impression stop us from proving ourselves or taking more actions. Yes, so thank you so much. I really love all the answers.
Okay, so equal. So I think so who's created the next questions? You need to unmute yourself first. Okay. Dr. Fayaz,
okay, since I unmuted first, David. So since I unmuted first, so Okay, my question is basically again directed at young people who've taken challenges like this particular one seriously, put a lot of thought into creating their project, and are here to present. Uh, I also know that some of them are here because they are completely, they live and breathe their idea and they want to see this idea go out there. I also know some of our people have a great idea, but they might not be really too keen on implementing it, because we have seen winners of certain competitions don't really ever start that idea. And there's a third element to it also, which is that a lot of times the idea is great, but the greatest fear amongst some of the competitors is, what if we can't win and we will not get the money to start the business, right? So my question is, if there were no competitions, if there were no pitching sessions, if there were no mentoring promises, if there were no sandboxes, and you still had a great idea, or somebody still had a great idea, how would we encourage them without the competitions and the mentoring and the incubation centers and all that? And how would we still encourage young people to put those ideas that they have into practice?
Okay, I'll take a stab at it. I think that, when you look at entrepreneurship, when you look at innovation, there's a couple ways. There's innovation by necessity, entrepreneurship by necessity, and then there's innovation entrepreneurship by opportunity. And it could be that given the situation, and I personally, I see this with my own kids, but I see this with a lot of the younger people, that they are a lot more confident now than we were when we were younger. With access to the internet, with access to knowledge at their fingertips, with access to case studies, best cases, examples of around the world, they're in a much better position to stand up on their own and create a startup, start their own business, without having to go into that corporate world or without having to go into a family office or a family business or stuff like this. And I think so the opportunity, I think, is there. And I think that has been created over the last little while. What's going to happen in the future, I think, is that the opportunities to work for corporations or work for institutions are going to be limited. So when you look at automation, when you look at some of the new technologies, that it's going to open the door for a lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of younger people just saying, okay, I got an idea and I'm going to try it on my own. One of the things I think that we could do, if there were no enabling spaces, challenges, and these types of things, is I think is from a consumer. You really got from the consumer standpoint, where buy products that are innovative, that are more environmentally friendly or socially friendly, buy products that are being produced by some of the smaller, younger companies. This is sort of what Amazon did to Main Street, right? Amazon sort of got rid of Main Street. Walmart did something similar. But the smaller shops, be it SMEs or the small shops, they have a lot of value to add. So I think from a consumer standpoint, we can actually be a much better informed consumer to look at where we're buying our products from and support entrepreneurs and support innovation and specifically support impact. That's one approach.
Not bad.
Would you like me to grade you on this, or? No, I think this is beyond grades. This is it's. I think pass. I'll do a pass fail.
Yeah, so yes, I'll continue. I'm adding two more. So for me, I think it's more about extortive, as you say, that there's a fear of not winning the prize. But I think the fear also derives from, the idea is not being recognized. They feel that, external validation is not there. So they start to question themselves whether this is going to work or not. So definitely, I think it's about really prioritize what is the mission of when they have this idea, what is their priority? Is it to win this competition, or is it really to address the challenges that they care about? And that's one thing that the beauty of social entrepreneurship and social innovation, it doesn't usually comes from just the opportunity. It also comes from empathy with seeing the challenges and seeing the problem, and really have this eager and really have this drive to solve it. So I think it's not about this feeling of not being recognized by one competitions or not. It's really about what do we, at the end of the day, what do we really care about? Do we care about being the winner of a competition, or do we really care about bringing the solutions to people that who need it? And also, just want to mention that we also know that there are a lot of social enterprises that have been operating months, years without external, mentorship support or joining any competitions, but they are sustainable. They are still operating in their community because the target audience, the target group, is only for people in their communities. So I think it's really being able to help them to find what is their passion, what is their drive. Yes, so just my few cents.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I agree with you too, and you almost cover everything. But I will add a good bit on top, like cherries. Well, to me, I think like startup this day, right? They rely heavily on grant, on support, incubator program, has to be the mentors. I think compared to the status of the startup like 10 years back, I mean, it's totally different. They like 10 years back, 10 years ago, right? They're doing it by themselves, there's no ecosystem like this, there's no supporter, facilitator like this, there's no incubator like this. So I think they the status of startup these days, they rely heavily, like too heavy on grant or support than before. I mean, to me, right, I mean, if they start with human disability, so if they start with needs of the people, like Linka said, I mean, if you know what they need, if you know what they feel, I mean, you deliver something that exactly similar or touch their need or their feeling, then I mean, it's a win-win, and there's no need to fear that there's no competition to give you a grant. There's no need to fear there's no incubator to mentor you, because you already know it by heart that this is the thing that those people who is your customer really want to do, or like looking forward to use it. So I think it's all about mindset of the founder. It's all about mindset of the entrepreneur.
Great answers all around. So I think all of you combined get an 8 average.
Yeah, you should be my lecturer when I'm doing my bachelor degree. So you can get better.
I like the idea of this whole thing about perspective of smaller social innovations and scalable social. What Linka refers to, and also in some ways what you guys refer to, is that there are small enterprises that we don't really know very much about, and they're sustainable and they're doing their job, and there is a certain amount of demand responsiveness to that, and we sometimes never advert to them. So I think that's a good point. We do need to. There are a lot of examples and a lot of adaptability, a lot of sort of social innovation nuggets are resident in sometimes non-scalable, very small projects as well. And so the other perspective, of course, is that the ones we are looking at, of course, are the next billion-dollar company potential, right? So these are the scalable ones. So there are two different universes, and we don't have to really muddle these up. They exist and they coexist really well.
Nice. David, your turn.
You guys almost took all the good questions, but I've got a good question. And it follows on what Dr. Faiz was saying and what Link was saying around scalability. So startup founders, we've got profitability on one side, we have impact on the other side. What do you think from an investor standpoint, because investors are looking for scale, or from a founder standpoint, because they do want to grow their companies, what do you think the models for scale, the really interesting models for scale are going to be when you start looking at this sort of where we are with this digital transformation, the post-COVID sort of world that we're moving into, and certainly in Asia, where I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for scale. It's one of the largest growing middle class in the world. It's got a very large youth bubble, which feeds into the consumer class. So what do you think the scalability points are going to be for the startup founders that are listening? What do you think the interesting points are going to be? And either to attract more investment to go further or for their own businesses themselves?
Tough one. Can we skip the question?
I mean, this is not high school now. Come on.
Okay, well, now this is a great question, and there's always going to be this tension between scale and impact, because we also know, because when we talk about scalability and this huge impact potential, the examples we give are normally those that come along, not very often. So if you throw stuff like Amazon or things like that into the conversation, you completely basically go in a very different ballgame. So I think we must also be conscious of what we describe as scale here. There is commercial scale, and I'm going to put the sort of the context into the question that you just asked. There's commercial scalability, and then there's impact scalability. So sometimes there is a difference. Ideally, we would have a business that is profitable, like the Grameen Bank, which is scalable to millions of people in numbers as well, which is impact. But at the same time, it creates byproducts through local enterprises, through membership organizations, the goods and service franchise operations, the commercial scalability also. So ideally, we should aspire to identify and work with products or projects that have potential to acquire significant scale in both in profitability as well as impact. So that would be the ideal. But on the other hand, if you look at the society, again, the same context is Asian middle class societies. Right now, what we see, of course, post-COVID will change a lot of this middle class spending, a lot of the consumer patterns that we have grown accustomed to as middle classes grow. And we will also have a severe shift because of mobility, a severe shift in certain kinds of goods and services, which depended on free mobility to operate. Tourism, hotels, transportation, hospitality, fast-moving commercial goods, micro products in micro markets which are seasonal. There are so many things, fresh fruit, etc., which will now have to be completely redefined. So my feeling is that even if we don't have to come up with brand new markets and brand new spaces and brand new products, we can just go back and redesign some of the existing products that may now be threatened to extinction because of the mobility crisis, because of the lack of consumer spending, because the lack of, now we are also deglobalizing in a certain way. We are breaking into smaller trading blocks. We are breaking into smaller product utility blocks and so on. So, which basically means the field is open again now. But if we redefine scale, do we redefine it to interprovincial scale because nobody can travel out of Thailand at the moment? Or do we create an inter-community scale? So that's the kind of questions that are now raising their heads. And to me, that's an exciting area where we can come back and rediscover some of these questions of scale, impact, and profitability at a completely different, again, scale, to use the same word. The scale and impact, again, are changing all the time. So for me, for young people, the message is go back to pre-COVID, figure out what's not working, and voila, you might have something that will have a completely different reincarnation in a post-COVID world.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Dr. Faiz. I think he was also speaking what I want to say, but I just want to add a few points. So the first, speak on behalf of the founders of social enterprises. So I think it's really think about what is the intention of scale. Do we want to scale because just for the sake of making profits, that we want more, numbers of members, we want people to pay for it, or we want to scale because we want to bring this products to more people. So I've also interacted with social enterprise work on education, and the business was sustainable. And they want to scale because they want to bring this education program to more people, but they don't want any investors because they don't want this quick win for the investors. So they want to scale because of the impact, not because of the profit. And I think from the investor perspective, there are emerging concepts of patient capital, small giants. We constantly using, those big technology like Facebook, Amazon as a reference point for how should a startup grow. But actually, there are a lot of small giants. They are not necessarily internationally recognized or being put in the spotlight, but they are still, scalable. They're providing, a certain size of services to people. Using those small giants as a reference point of how should startup would grow. So just my points.
Yeah, I think just to wrap it up, right? I think the both impact and scale are equally important to me. I mean, if you if you want to do like a great impact, right? It demonstrates to a concrete result. It demonstrates to a changing of the behavior or either changing in mindset. So if you can do that, then I mean I don't see any a possibility of failing to have tractions or profit. So I think those two come together. I mean, I'm always tell my teams that I'm incubating them that even though you are a social enterprise, but you need to have a positive cash flow. You need to sustain it by yourself. So, so I think it equally important, and I do agree with you two answers. Hope it's good.
No, I think that's exactly it. It's not a quality of impact versus quantity of profitability. It is actually both sides. It's the quality of impact and the quality of the profitability. I mean, are you making profits for a positive purpose? Are you reinvesting in impact? These types of things. I think they're all great answers, though I must give Linka the bonus point for bringing the phrase of small giants in. I think that is, small giants is really interesting. Everybody's talking unicorns and billions of dollars and everything else, but there's a lot of very successful social enterprises out there that don't hit the paper every day. So bonus point to Lincoln.
Okay, fair enough. Fine. Okay, that's great. I mean, we exceed the times, and hopefully we can do something like this. I hope we enjoy the panel discussion. I think it's a new way to do things, right? So let's try a new way. Please still don't leave me yet. I think it's time for the participant that they've been waiting for. First of all, thank you for three of you, your terms. It's been a pleasure to meet you all today. And hopefully we can go to Samui and do something together like we supposed to do with Salvis and other friends and columns too. Next, we will announce, not the 10 finalists yet, but we will announce the mentors that will be participate, who will be assigned to mentor your team during these 2 weeks. If I can get the mentor slides, the screen up. We actually have 10 mentor, right? So it'd be one by one for each team. But we just put on 8 mentor first. Another 2 will be assigned later on over the weekends, right? So we have Mr. Christian Walter, founding partner of SDGx. We have Ms. Zain Hussein, startup support coordinator at UNDP Youth Collab. We have Ms. Nisha Oswald, startup support coordinator at UNDP Youth Collab. And another startup support coordinator at UNDP Youth Collab is Ms. Yaki Chu. And we have Ms. Apinya Silinat, Social Impact Investment Expert of UNDP Thailand. We have Mr. Callum Mackenzie, Co-founder and Director of Programs at Yunus, Thailand. We have Mr. Jeff Hamilton, DevHub Startups and Incubator Center. And last but not least, we have Mr. Patit Ongwasin, Program Officer at Yunus, Thailand. A couple of more names will be thrown into the account during the weekends and will be assigned to you soon. For those, the mentor pairing will be automatically matching you, the finalist team with the mentor over this weekend, and it will be announced to the finalists through emails on this coming Monday. All right. The period of mentoring will be started on the Monday and last until the 14th of August, roughly 2 weeks. You have at least 3 times to meet with the mentor. For the time availability of the timeline and everything, you can discuss, including the platform or communication channel with the mentor, you can directly discuss with the mentor. Don't reach out to the mentor will reach out to you. Okay. If you have any more questions, please do send the question to the emails that you subscribe, that you submit the application to. Yeah, I think it's pretty much everything already, except one most important thing. It's the 10 finalists. Ta-dan, 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 ta-dan. Yay! Okay, so let's hear it out to the 10 finalists of Engaging Our Future Challenge. We have one. This is not like according to the in order of the point, but this is the 10 finalists of this competition. We have Merca from Thailand and USA. We have Flockchain from Indonesia. We have Glowing House from United Kingdom. We have Terrafic from Philippines. We have Care Connects and Them from Thailand, Dones from Thailand, and Alpha Protect from Thailand as well. We have Neoplastic from France and Hong Kong. Last but not least, we have Synapse from United Kingdom. I think, it's a super tough decision for all the judges, and we working like super really hard to pick the best 10. Not the most appropriate 10 finalists for this competition. It doesn't mean that the remaining team is no good. We have almost 120 teams from 26 to 30 countries around the globe, so it's huge. And you guys has done a great job doing like video clips, doing the pitch deck, and completing the application. Don't give up, man. We fail all the time. All right. The thing is, you need to get back up as soon as you fail. All right. So put yourself up and go back to your things. Trying to improvise and improve. Hope to see all the 10 teams soon on the pitch day on the 22nd of August. And I think that's it for today. Thank you. Congratulations to all the teams, and I will see you around. Waiting for emails, and have a good weekend. Thank you, Linka. Thank you, Dr. Fayaz. Thank you, David. Thank you, all the audience. Thank you, the team.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Dr. Fayaz. Thank you, David.
Thank you all. Great to see everybody back.
Thank you all.
Have a great one.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.